doing the all black everything roundtable here. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern for all of you amazing YouTube watchers out there. There's like a dozen of you, but for all of you guys who are watching on YouTube, yeah, Thursdays 8 p.m. Eastern. We have an amazing group of people here, and I'll start by introducing them. Up top here, oh god damn, it's fucking mirrored. Up top here, we have Polar. Hey Polar, thank you for being around here, and thanks for the project, like the tech project that you're demonstrating for everyone. Here's how to fuck up a PC build. Go ahead.
I wish you were lying. Okay, I wish you were lying, but no. Thank you, Brian, for having me. It's always great to be on here. I see some new faces. I'm always excited to see some new faces, as well as some really cool people that I've got to talk to. I'm excited. I think the topics are going to be really fun. But, you know, like usual, Prime, thank you for letting me come on. I always have a blast on these kinds of panels.
Okay, yeah. Happy to have you around, as always. Wiggle, hey, hi, are you around?
Yep, I'm here.
Why does your voice sound completely different, Wiggle?
You heard that too, right?
Yeah.
He sounded.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah,
I have the same problem in Streamlabs too.
There, you know
or I'm sorry, I have the same problem in StreamYard too, where like my audio is kind of weird.
I don't know, might be the mic. Hold on.
I don't know. Wiggle sounded.
Yeah, I think
like Detective Conan in here.
Wait.
He's fucking with us. He's fucking with us. That's why his camera's off.
White man.
He's fucking with us.
It doesn't sound very melanated. Who is this man?
Yeah.
Hey, what's wrong with it?
What is wrong with it? I don't understand.
Okay, I'm gonna take this person off stream until I figure out who this is. That's definitely fucking redneck. That's definitely fucking redneck. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you doing? That's redneck.
Imposter alert.
All right.
I remember Wiggle telling me he's like sick or something. I don't know.
White's in the voice, bro.
I'm at a loss here, actually.
That's CTV. That's CTV. Wait,
CTV. You know, CTV. Yeah, CTV.
What's up, CTV?
Hey.
No, this is Wiggle.
Okay.
This is Wiggle.
No, like seriously, there's a problem with StreamYard.
No, it's definitely not. But it's CTV.
No,
it's a problem with Wiggle first, if you know what I'm saying.
Wiggle, where are you? Wiggle's
working
with them because Wiggle's the one who DM'd us.
This is Wiggle. I don't understand.
You see that? Like, you know what?
Thank you.
Because this voice doesn't make me mad while listening.
This is an April Fool's joke, and I appreciate it.
Oh.
Where's Wiggle?
I'm sitting right here.
All right. Well, this has been great. Have a good one, buddy.
Bye, CTV.
Bye.
Bye.
Wiggle, anytime now. Thanks.
Sounded like Mickey Mouse. Oh, this is Wiggle.
How's the static? Did it go away? Is it still there?
It's better.
It's better? Oh, okay.
It's a lot better.
Okay, so hopefully Wiggle will get in here soon. The chat seems happy that Wiggle has been banned.
Oh, wow. So much for the tolerant left. Wow.
Literally 1984.
Yeah. All right, bye. So hopefully Wiggle will actually get in here soon. That'd be great. So what do we got? Okay, well, hopefully he'll be here soon. So we'll just continue on. All right, this is a huge interruption. Great. All right, back at it. All right, so hey Joe, and your very extremely crinkly bag. Joe Lewis,
what's up?
Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, has some goodies in the back. I'm gonna hold off for later. What's up?
What's up?
I don't know what's exactly. I mean, Wiggle sounded fine for me. I don't know.
It's definitely not. Well, you're part of it. Oh goddamn.
How am I part of it? I'm just saying that's why.
You're part of the conspiracy.
Third imposter. Third imposter.
Oh my god, you guys are gaslighting.
How you doing, Joe?
Doing good. Hanging in there. Got some good topics today, so it should be fun.
Great, awesome. All right.
That's all I got.
Lyra. Hold on. First of all, before we introduce Lyra, we got someone who's got some explaining to do. All right, buddy.
Why were you kicking me? Why were you just? Why were you kicking me? After everything, after this is how you treat a black man in this day and age.
The one day his camera's not working too. It's really
I know, like I just don't. That's classist, really.
Maybe that manifesto was true today, Prime. That's all I'm saying.
I know.
Was there another manifesto that I'm unaware of? Oh, maybe there's some. I feel like I'm not unaware of.
I don't know.
Right.
Ever since Prime got his YouTube sub goal, he been acting different. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Seriously, was there another manifesto? Something? Is there something I'm unaware of? Oh man.
No, I'm just asking idea.
I don't think so.
Okay. Whatever. I'm always the last person to find out, so I'm like, oh, there's something I don't know. Any which way. We'll continue. Lyra, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good today. And Wiggle, you should have done it singing in the rain style, where like CTV is like talking and you're just moving your mouth. And you're just like, oh, my camera's delayed. I think that would have worked. But next year. But hi, everybody. My name is Lyra. I'm excited to be back again. But hey, I'm really excited for today. I like the topics for today.
We're happy to have you too. So thank you for being so enthusiastic about jumping into these things. Really appreciate that. Next, we have Azzy. So before we start, I'm going to need you to apologize about your shitty opinions on concerning Godzilla and King Kong. Just like apologize and to the one true king, Godzilla.
The one true king.
The one true king.
Do you know Godzilla is the menace to humanity? What are you talking about?
So
the one true king. Go ahead and worship your lizard king, who's gonna sacrifice yourself to your lizard king, while Kong out here being a real one, who actually is a
lizard person king. Confirmed.
Kong is actually a king. He comes from a long line of kings. See that? And go ahead and serve your false god. Go ahead. Prime out here trying to make me apologize. No, I will never apologize for having great taste.
All right. Thank you so much, Azzy. Next, Top Dolphin. Oh, God damn it. Adam. Hey, what's up, Adam?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's nice to see some familiar faces. I left work, didn't eat dinner for this, so
Huzzah.
I'm excited.
Great.
Interesting.
Don't complain at us. Anyway, thank you. No, but thank you for being here. Marks, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm Marks. I used to be a turkey, but I evolved into a dinosaur, so poggers. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Top's gonna be smooth.
That's right. That's how evolution works, right?
Sure.
Checkmate, conservatives. All right. CGI. Hey, CGI. I believe we haven't seen you in a long time. Like, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yep.
Well,
last time I was around probably around February. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. Finally, get to talk on all black panel. So I'm definitely interested in the topics, and I'm looking forward to everyone's opinions on these things. So, for sure.
All right.
Wasn't that
yeah, I heard when Charmhole got banished to the Shadow Realm, that actually freed CGI. He's been there the entire time.
Yeah, like I feel like I've seen you. Oh yeah, you were like you were at the Nick Fuentes AMA. You were like his big fan, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then when Nick Fuentes got banned and Charmhole got banned, that was like
right, it's a chain reaction right there.
Bro, I still remember it. You were like, "Is this Nick? I'm sorry. I've just been waiting for this moment for so long."
All right. And last and very much least, Wiggle. Thanks for coming through. Eventually, I guess you sent a saboteur to the all black everything panel. How could you? How could you?
Are you? I just wanted to be on the panel, and you just kept stopping me, kicking me, like just because my camera wasn't working. Is this
Okay.
what we've come to?
All right.
Is it? I need a face rig set up. I need to do one of these janky iPhone things CGI's doing. Like it's just that is that anti camera in here that even as a producer you get kicked.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. All right. We'll see how long Wiggle's here for. We'll see how long. But okay, thanks for being here. We're gonna get started. All right. Topic 1. Oops, crap! Can't do that. My fucking computer's being weird. All right. Topic 1. Just as New York has legalized marijuana this week, the Biden administration has reiterated that it will, at best, support decriminalization. I can hear you clicking like very loudly. Whoever's clicking, I can hear it very, very clearly.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Yeah. I will support decriminalization. Do you think that with pressure, this administration will ever support legalization? And what would that look like? Currently, the barriers for entry into the legal weed market are too high for many minorities, forcing them back into the black market. Would you accept legalization that still criminalizes a certain subsection of the black community? All right, so so New York has decriminalized it, and with I think 15 states in total plus DC. And Biden administration, they legalized it. And then Biden administration has said, like in a press conference the other day, that they're still on the decriminalization train, if that. And there's been a lot of really shady moves by the Biden administration on this very subject, and just a little amount of time they've been here. So I'm curious as to what you guys think. If it's even possible for us to go fully legal under Biden. All right, we'll start with Polar.
Is it possible? I mean, like, it most definitely is possible. If you want to get this form like pseudo decriminalization, you don't even necessarily have to go through Congress. This is what the Obama.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's go to Joe. Don't look that up. Polar, don't look that up. All right, go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, I'm with it. But we'll get to some talks later.
Maybe don't say that. Maybe That's your dad jokes. I'm just not flying here. Okay, we're moving on. Lyra, do better. You don't have much of a barrier to cross there.
No dad jokes, okay. Well, so I would say in terms of decriminalization versus legalization, well, I would eventually love to get to the place where weed is legalized. I guess in my head, I'm more so pushing for the decriminalization because as much as I would like people to be able to use it medically and recreationally, I'm more so concerned about all the people who are still in jail for 20 years for having couple of ounces, you know. So I really want the decriminalization. Legalization would be poggers, but I'm gonna push for decriminalization first. And there was something else I was gonna say, but it's left my head. But yeah, I'm more so pushing for decriminalization, although both would be nice.
Hey, thanks so much. Next, we'll go to Azzy.
So the question is.
You sound a little low.
Yeah. Oh, let me turn myself up.
You should sound a little higher.
See that? I see that. I'm biased because I don't like weed, and I'm all right. I'm all right. Biden, do whatever you're gonna do, as long as you don't. Well, they just made it legal, so you're not getting arrested for having a Ziploc bag full of weed. So it's called a zippy, I think, or a zip. Is that true, Wiggle? Since you,
why do you assume that I would know?
I don't know, man.
It's a little fucked up to tell the black person when there's something about weed there.
Citizen as of yesterday. As of yesterday, I'm a law.
That's kind of sus. Not gonna lie, it's kind of sus.
In New York.
He has so much to say. I'm just asking. He got a little bit more knowledge since he got so much to say. All right, but yeah, the Biden administration is reiterated. It's gonna do its best job. We'll see what it is. What it's going to do. They've already legalized it in 15 states. New Jersey is doing all right so far with legalized weed. And New York is trying to capitalize on that. They're right next to us. We need to make money too. As long as you guys get your invest in weed stocks, it's going to be $1 billion industry. Get your permit together, your license together if you're trying to sell weed. Other than that, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I would accept a legalization that still hits a few criminals.
Okay. Top Dolphin.
Yeah, I mean, I've never tried weed, but it seems cool. The limited amount of research we have on it seems like it's safe. I think it would be cool to legalize it. Will the Biden administration do it? It's hard to tell with these kinds of things. The federal government seems to, like, as much as people like say, it seems to follow whatever public opinion is. And right now, it just doesn't seem like it's like electorally popular to like legalize weed necessarily. Only 15 states have done it, and I think it's like while we start to see more states decriminalize it, like a lot of states have actually, and when more states start to legalize it, maybe we'll see the Biden administration flip on it, kind of like the Obama administration and gay marriage. They were kind of against it at first. And as more states started to give rights, as more people started to talk about it, and more like, I don't think you really need research for gay marriage, but there was research that came out on that. The Obama administration eventually flipped on it. And that's kind of how government operates. It usually lags behind popular opinion. So as we keep moving forward in this direction as a populace, I think the Biden administration will follow suit. We only get like one midterm election for this to happen unless he gets reelected. So I don't know if it'll happen his first 4 years. But if he gets a second term, I think definitely by the end of 8 years, definitely will have some legalization policy in there.
Wow, you guys really have no faith in this administration.
You know, apparently you're new to my channel.
Prime's first stream. Prime's first stream.
Did you realize that Biden probably smokes weed, and that's why he's so old?
Marks.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of mimic what everybody else said. It's kind of hard to say, right? Because to me, it depends on how much like the populace actually pushes for it. It seems like legalizing weed is becoming more and more popular as the days go by. But it actually depends on how much the populace really wants it. It seems since we're in a pandemic, we're sort of in a recession right now. That's maybe not on the top of his list. But if he gets the following 4 years, or maybe if he gets 8 years, I'm sure he'll pass some legislation addressing it. I don't know if he'll actually legalize it, but out of all the presidents so far, he's the most likely president to legalize weed. I'm hopeful, but I don't know. Yeah.
CGI.
Okay, so I'm going off what everyone else is saying here, but I want to add more things to this. So I do not think that Biden is going to go on a full front train to legalize marijuana, right? Actually, there are polls that have shown in the recent bill that was passed in the House in December, to my memory. I think it was the MORE Act, is the More Opportunity Reinvestment Expungement Act, where they actually found that 51% of Republicans actually backed that bill, right, which would essentially decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. Now, this is something that I think is ever moving progressively. More people are understanding that marijuana is not the same stigma that it's had to 20, 30 years ago. More people are understanding the effects it can have. But the problem that I want to go for, and why Biden should go forward on this train to legalization, is actually to study marijuana. Right now, colleges and universities can't actually study the effects and long-term effects of marijuana within certain environments because of federal restrictions and policies, which are congruent to them being Schedule 1 drugs next to heroin and all those other things, psychoactives. And I think this will bring up, and taking away this policy would actually open the door for everyone to understand the benefits and detriments of what marijuana may present to us. So do I think Biden's going to legalize marijuana or push for it hard? No. Do I think he's going to definitely push towards decriminalization? Yes. And I think that's still a step forward to where we need to be at this point.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll go to Wiggle.
Yeah, so I see it as like we're the kids, like everyone in America is the kids. Then there's like mom, and that the mom would be like the most progressive Democrats. Then you have dad, your black dad, and that would be Biden. And then you have like the Republicans who are his friends. And so it'd be like weed is Disney World. So it'll be like, mom will be like, maybe we'll go to Disney World. And you're like, yeah, I want to go to Disney World. Then your black dad would be like, yeah, okay, maybe we'll go to Disney World. And then he goes to his like friends, the conservatives, and goes like, can you believe this woman saying that maybe we'll go to Disney World? Like, I got Disney World money. That's how I see like weed right now. I don't think Biden's that guy. I don't think he has it in him. But then again, like he tripped like 3 times walking up the stairs. You never know. Maybe one of those trips, triggered something in his brain and it got him working again. And maybe he'll work to like legalize something. I actually agree on one thing, is that like it's ridiculous how like the Republicans have put their stance, like how conservatives are on this. Like you look at like in New York, no Republicans were for like the legalization of like weed. And then you think about it and you like speak to your conservative friends and like a lot of them like weed. And it's one of those things where I think like right-wing populism and left-wing populism will come together on like weed specifically. And maybe we can like, if we can't get all the Democrats on one side, we can push out some of these Republicans, replace them with Republicans that support everything the same and also weed. And we'll at least have legal weed. And that's my take on that.
All right. I'll open to the panel.
Sound pretty emphatic there, Wiggle. You sure you don't partake? You sure?
I mean, I not as of like yesterday. I think yesterday was the first day I ever hit anything. It was a magical experience, actually. I heard it was legal. I heard my governor was for it. The state was for it, and I did the right thing as a taxpayer, as like a citizen. I was like, let me try this out. If the government promotes it, how bad could it be?
I like the way you said that, a citizen. Like I'm saying.
It's weird too, right? Because we arrest so many people for weed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then a part of me thinks that, okay, if you can't get conservatives on defund the police, like you can definitely get them on refund the police when it comes to marijuana arrests, because holy shit, like we're arresting up to like almost 550,000 people on cannabis related crimes, but then like when it comes to like lethal, what's it called, like violent crimes, right? It's not even at 500,000. So like that's a whole sector of individuals who are getting arrested on something, and that could free up resources for law enforcement agencies to actually like maybe do their job in other areas instead of worrying about arresting people on weed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I also
and,
totally agree that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I would also agree with what Wiggle said about weed legalization and decriminalization. Well, legalization at least being a very bipartisan
Wiggle,
issue.
if you're doing,
I
sorry,
think
there's someone messing around. It's not Wiggle, but someone's messing around, and I'm hearing a lot of background noise. Someone's. Be aware of your mic, right? So go ahead, Lara.
Sorry. So yeah, I would agree that I think legalization of weed is a very bipartisan issue. Like there's a lot of people on both Democratic voters and Republican voters who would very much so like weed. Like I remember when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, there were also a lot of fuck 12 protests that were like they didn't really care about Black Lives Matter. They were just saying fuck 12 for taking away my weed. A lot of college students doing that. So I think that is one of the few things that like voters from both sides could get together on.
Yeah, and the thing going to what Joe was saying, a lot of people that are actually in these in prisons, especially, right? Most of them are in for nonviolent offenses like drug offenses. I know personally, I've worked in the correction system. I've worked full hand in hand and face forward with many of these inmates. And when you come across them, many of them will tell you stories and actually articulate their experiences and why they're in there. And most of the crimes I've seen just from an anecdotal experience have been some type of drug usage, have been some type of involvement with marijuana and such drugs. And I feel that we already have overpopulation within our prison system, right? And it feels that we know, we look at the trends, we look at the polls, and we understand the public has changed their type of thinking on marijuana, especially in the last 20 to 30 years in acceptance to this point. But in certain states, many times over, we're still putting minorities in prison. We're putting minorities in jail for these crimes when we understand that the majority of our population still accepts socially the usage of marijuana. So I do think that we need to. How is it not true?
For one,
I mean, there's many statistics and surveys that show you that not just Democrats, but Republicans as well support not only the usage of marijuana for users, but also favoring decriminalization of marijuana at the federal level. Now, we could talk about legalization, right, and recreational use at the federal level, but when it comes to decriminalizing it, many people on both sides of the aisle agree to making step forwards to this.
Are you sure it's recreational? Are you talking about polls of recreational use or medical use?
Bro, like medicine can be fun.
I don't think it.
Listen, Wiggle, go ahead, go have get some Tylenol, have fun, put in some Coca-Cola, have as much fun as you want, bro. Just
I don't even think there's a big difference between
and let it explode out the bottle. Like no, like.
Honestly, I don't think there's a very big difference between the populace on whether it's recreational use or for medicinal use. Because I mean, shocker, a lot of people who have been prescribed marijuana also use it recreationally. Sorry, I can't speak English. But I don't really think there's a big difference.
They get it with a prescription.
Still, it's like there's not a lot of people I know. I know I'm using myself as an example who are like against like who think weed should be illegal. Anybody uses it should be jailed. I don't think there's very many people who still think like that. I would think there are most people who do it. I mean, I don't even use weed either, but like I don't think people should be in jail for it.
All right, so that's what I kind of want to understand, right? Like, what are the possible? I guess it's anecdotal repercussions. Like, what are like the anecdotal repercussions that we could see from like the legalization of recreational use?
Oh, every corner of your community will smell like weed. Weed stinks, bro. Weed smells.
I mean,
like
they already do.
Why? It smells like Dial soap every
well,
time.
I mean,
also,
I
want to legalize. This man wants to restrict people from farting.
Speaking of that, in the case of legalization, do you guys think that there should be an age limit? And if so, what do you think the age limit should be?
I don't think there should. Like, hot take. I don't think there should be an age limit.
I would.
At the sorry, go for it, Paul.
I was gonna say I actually do agree with Joe to a certain extent. I think that if there should be a like a buyer's limit, like you probably like someone under the age of X number shouldn't be able to buy it. But one thing is for sure, I do not want some kid to go to jail because they smoke weed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I
like,
would
there's
think-
all
I don't think
again, like the
So wait, what do you mean by a buyer's limit based on age? Like, do you
Sorry, not
mean,
sorry,
for
seller.
example-
So like I'm sorry. I meant sellers. So you know, like when you go to buy alcohol, like they can't sell to a certain individual at a certain age. So I would want like
Correct.
that limit, right? Than age. But then if like a policeman finds like a younger kid with it, I don't think that like they should go to jail for that.
Yeah,
Or
but
like
I don't
that
think
should be put on
that's.
there.
Okay, yeah,
That's-
well, that's what they're doing. I'm pretty sure from my memory that's how they have it in Jersey, right? And
Oh, that's
Jersey,
cool. Yeah, then I agree with
there's,
that. I agree with that. That's
yeah.
cool.
Like one of the
there's some type
problems
of
that I
instance
have
where
with
they
like
have-
oh sorry, it's TGI.
Go ahead, CGI.
No, I was just gonna say in Jersey there are some instances where they actually implicated that if you are a certain age, right, the probable cause that they would have to do certain searches or things that would come across them actually investigating if you have marijuana have been restricted. Now there's been police officers, especially the NJPBA, that have been ruling against this, especially in South Jersey. I've seen a lot of PBA officers ruling against this, but this is also like a step to what Polar is saying, right? That they don't want to have some type of indication that what we legalized it. We know that people of younger ages are going to get marijuana the same respect when we legalized after prohibition for alcohol, right? So why should we make some stringent effect on these individuals to place them in the same like cycle of going to jail, right? So,
Well,
Yeah.
to play
Alcohol
devil's
is not-
advocate, oh, sorry, you want to go to?
Weed
I was
and
just gonna say that,
alcohol,
like-
two different ballparks.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, go for it. Go for it. I mean, like the thing that I don't understand, and this is like one of the problems that we have with weed, is right. It's that, like there, on one level, like you want to understand the potential like good and bad outcomes, but you can't because the the research teams that want to do these things are handicapped by the federal government. So the very least, something
Correct.
that you could do is create some type of federal legislation that allows you to do tests and research and studies on marijuana to talk about their recreational benefits and their and the medicinal benefits. Because one of the problems is, like, I can say that like Colorado did a study and they found that in Colorado, teens had a significant drop in marijuana use over the past 3 years since its in terms of recreationally. However, like, why does that happen? Like, there needs to be more studies in other areas. Like, okay, in Colorado, we saw a drop in its usage of teenagers. So, like, maybe we could see the drop potentially somewhere else. And then, like, you can, like, create, like, actual studies and get, like, different
Well, we do
resources
have-
and group.
Well, we do have studies for the.
We don't have
medicinal
enough.
No,
We
we
don't
have
have enough.
very limited information compared to something like alcohol, which is like widely available. We have tons of studies on like how alcohol affects people, even children, and children aren't even allowed to consume it. But when it comes to weed, we have like very, very, very small amount of the information, and a lot of that is because like a lot of funding for universities comes from the federal government, and if you're
Yeah.
looking for a research grant, you can't have a research grant on weed if weed's illegal for the most part.
I was,
'Cause
I
mean, you can, but it's really, really, really hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to play devil's
Yeah,
advocate, I don't really know my position on the age limit, but it seems to me that with like alcohol, for example, even though like some could argue we should lower it, it seems to be that we set like an age limit to where we say kids shouldn't consume this because of the negative health effects it has. The lack of concentration in your abilities, it seems to be not an appropriate thing for children to use in a lot of instances. Now for weed, I think you could make the argument that although it doesn't have any outright like negative health event and effects, like you're not going to die in like a car accident, like get cancer or whatever, but it seems to be like you lose focus, you lose track of time, and that it might have negative consequences in your schooling. Do you think that could be like an argument against?
No,
for like
I
some
don't
type
I
of age
mean,
limit?
any
I
of
mean,
those
I
have.
would-
I think we need to legalize it so I can.
I have plenty of anecdotes that says that's different because I
Right.
have many friends, especially in Jersey. When I was in school in Jersey, many friends who use weed and they use it only for academic use. Like
Sure, and I have a
anytime
lot
they took
of
a test or did homework, they use weed.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a lot of anecdotal evidence. I actually have video evidence that Sarah J participates in fucking her fans. A lot of evidence, actually. And that makes me believe that, hey, because she fucks her fans, I might have my shot.
You know
but
what?
that
I'm gonna
doesn't
look
mean
up Sarah J.
But then, like, there are other
Sarah J.
barriers. There are other barriers that might be in place as to why this action is happening so often, right? So, like, what should be happening is additional research in marijuana so we can actually study this thing. That's why I said that, like, we need better research.
I don't know.
So
Like,
what's wrong
I
with-
kind of agree with Azzy though. Like, I think like weed is only used as an educational tool that can like enhance your learning, and I think like we should really see
You know
that
what?
information. that it
Wiggles
gives
right.
and run with it. Like,
Yeah, Wiggles right. We should have like weed dispensaries and like you guys know how they have like in the bathrooms they'll have like tampons and they'll have like other like materials.
Cannabis
I think
right
you should have
there.
weed
Boom.
dispensaries like as soon as kids like from the bus port from like the front entrance like
my man on his
very soon, cool.
entrepreneur. There you go.
Yeah, like an entrepreneur. Yes, Wiggle.
Yeah, they got
Oh,
diet pop
yeah.
machines in school. Let's get weed machines in school. That's
Listen,
that's the next move, right? Like
True.
de-stress
Yeah,
de-stress for your test.
And yo,
That's
if it's in the
amazing.
bathroom, we won't even have to worry about that smell problem you were talking about.
And then another thing to think about too, right? Like when we talk about age limits, right? Because one of the things that I think you can definitely like, make conservatives lose their minds. I shouldn't say conservatives, but some individuals in the United States are going to lose their minds over the idea that like, oh, my 16-year-old child can go and get this thing. We also got to remember that the facilities, the places where you can actually buy recreational marijuana, are incredibly few and far between in a lot of areas. So what that might look like is that you might walk into a place and think like, oh, this is recreational. Okay, it's like, nah, psych, this is just medical. So it's like, even if we were to say like today, like, if legislation were to pass today, that like if you are like, there's no age limit for weed, have the fuck at it. Like still there's restrictions within the business and the industry itself. Despite it being booming, it doesn't have the equal like access of facilities across the entire United States.
Yeah, but if we
what I
made
would
weed
say-
legal tomorrow, I think like the immense amount of profit like that would flood into that industry would allow them to expand, and we could very much see weed stores like all over the place, and weed being a lot more accessible in a lot more places. Right now, I would say a big problem with that is demand and just the industry being, wow, very, very growing, still relatively niche.
Well, sure, you could do that, but we also got to remember we have like you can go to porn stores still, right? Like no, like again, I'm gonna keep doing this analogy because it's incredibly important, right? Like there is a singular porn store in my township, and one of the things that they cannot do, despite the fact that business in their area is booming, is that the township will not let them expand their business, despite they have every validation. Like, hey, we have outgrown this building, we can't be in here anymore. The townships, like every time they go up there, it's like, nope. Can't expand, and they give them like some bullshit on some type of regulation they might have to go through in hoops and ladders. So like you can definitely still just like if you don't want weed in your area, you're definitely like not understanding the actual power that local legislation has, and there's a making sure that a thing they don't want in their community will make sure not to be there. You know,
Can't that be applied? I was gonna
just very quickly.
I want to go back to.
Sorry, just very quickly. We have a level 3 hype train going on. If people could help out, we have less than a minute left on the hype train. You could help out the train. Get us to a level 4 and then level 5. Obviously, thank you, Leah, for gifting 10. And now we're at the level 4. Thank you so much. But yeah, you can have some more people help out the channel right now. Now's the time to do it. All right, go ahead, Polar, then Lyra.
Yeah, I think like Joe was right. Local legislation is really important, but I would like to understand Joe's position. So Joe, I think you and I would agree on this. So like local legislation, like local like legislative boards or like councils can do a lot to a lot of industries, but it's the social stigma that's still reliant that could stop that, right? Yeah. So like I think this is an interesting point. I would say that like if like a local board in local area is okay with it, it's a very I'm pretty sure that it's a pretty competitive market. Like it's close to like a perfectly competitive market, which is really nice in that sense. So like so that would make it much more affordable and accessible. And I think that's a positive, as well as being like a new tax revenue. But
and then like and also like if you're looking for like the viability of certain industries, right? Like for card, like again, I guess I'm just gonna just like talk about my personal life here. Like when it comes to card game stores, right, and like hobby shops, they're very, very niche. Like you'll only see like maybe one or two. And one of the things is that like that that like the first like hobby shop that's popular, that has popular games like Yu-Gi-Oh, like Magic the Gathering, maybe even a land center. They create a monopoly of that community, and people will come out of township just to put in money towards that. So there's a huge incentive in having like tabletop stores. But in reality, like when you go up there and like you're trying to get like your business plan for there, it's like, oh well, there's this popular hobby shop that's already here. So what are you going to do that's going to bring something different to this market that's showing that one person is enough to sustain it? And then like you had to like figure something out in that aspect. And I think we could do that thing where like you might see just like the best of the best of the businesses being able to build in these areas. One, because of the social stigma, and two, because you need to actually like prove to these local legislatures that you actually have a legitimate business plan and a legitimate plan like moving forward on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think weed is a lot more comparable to something like alcohol, for example, than it is like a hobby shop. Like the usage rates among minors are relatively comparable. I don't think they're comparable among adults, but I do know like I think it's like 52% of people like have tried weed in their life. It's like a lot more, and like there's a bar, like depending on what town you're in, there's a bar in every street corner. And yeah, maybe in like a lot like smaller towns, there might be townships that try to keep it out. I think there's still dry towns that technically exist for alcohol too.
Right.
So, yeah, like for the most part,
yeah, like Western Groves.
Yeah,
for
the most part, like alcohol is everywhere, and I think weed would probably see, while it would take probably like 10-15 years, weed would probably see similar levels of like popularity.
Lyra, did you get a chance to go previously? Lyra?
I think she is frozen.
Oh. Sorry, would you say, Wiggle?
Oh, I was gonna say like no, they didn't get a chance to speak, but their thing was
there we go.
So,
they'll probably be right back.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, well, I'll remove her. Oh,
can you guys hear me?
There we go. All right, there you are. Yeah. You were frozen with a smile on your face. I thought we were just having a good time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right, yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't.
Weird. Wiggle did the same thing.
In and out sometimes, but I've been able to listen to it.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Prime. Wiggle did the same thing and got kicked earlier.
I promise. I just had a shitty.
Wow, the double.
Oh wow. Okay.
Jesus, the squad W going on.
I know, right? Reverse squad W right there.
Just quickly, we have 3 minutes left on this level 5 hype train. 3 minutes left. We're almost there.
Boys don't mean much.
If you could help us out, 5% left. Thank you, Raven Ghost, for continuing your gifts up from you got from Leah. You could help us out and finish this. Okay, never mind. Leah's already finished it for us. All right. Thank you, Leah, for being so kind and gifting 20 hype train gifts us to the channel. Thank you. Oh my God, the hype train complete. Never mind. Before I even got to say it. All right, go ahead, Lyra.
Sorry, I promise my apartment just has shitty Wi-Fi. But I just wanted to go back to Joe's point, what Joe was saying about what to do with the age of consent, or at least the age of use, legal use. And like, I think that my answer on that really does depend on getting more studies out on how marijuana affects kids of certain ages. Because like I know that one of the very practical uses of weed is for depression. I have a lot of friends who have depression, and they were prescribed weed to help them. So it's like I don't know if that's prescribed to children. Would it help them? How much can hurt? How much can help? So I think what to do about the age of consent, before we could get a clearly defined answer on that, we just need more studies. And before we could get more studies, we gotta legalize it.
I would also add,
I
would also add that it actually has a negative impact there, because if you live in a state where you can get prescribed weed for depression, you're actually making all the people in states that can't get prescribed weed for depression more depressed.
I may have a hot take here. Okay.
Go ahead.
I may have a hot take here. I think all forms of like any form of like drug, like alcohol and substances, like usage for people who are under the age of 18, I don't think that they should be criminalized. So alcohol, any form of like narcotic and such as. Maybe it's probably not that hot of a take now that I think about it. But I don't think a minor should like go to jail for that thing.
I think it's not that hot of a take on a panel like this. But when it comes to like how electorally popular it is to like decriminalize all drugs for all ages, that's not. It doesn't seem to be like a super popular like opinion yet. Like it's getting up there. Well, but I do agree with you.
What's the bet? Like that's the thing too, right? Because I think that, like, because Jersey brings up, we just fine the shit out of them. Like, I don't agree with the fine sizes right now, and they're gonna argue it out. But like, if you multiple offenses for things like marijuana currently in the current legislation's going on, it's no fucking joke. Like, your third offense could be like over $500 in a fine. But either way, but you're still not going to jail for it. But still, like, even something for a child, right? We're talking about children here. A $50 fine for a child is a huge impact on them financially. Granted, obviously, when we get to the conversation, like in the next couple topics, like there's some privilege there, right? Like certain communities might be able to pay a fine, while other communities might not be able not to due to like different types of conditions. So,
yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah,
I
want to
go ahead, because
I did want to say one thing to what.
Go ahead, CG.
Go ahead.
Oh. Okay, you're a little low, Azzy. I'm sorry. I want to say something to what Lyra was saying, and that's really the biggest thing for me. The thing is, for me, is research, right? There are so many things we do not know in terms of the long-term effects when it comes to marijuana. Some I looked at recently in the last year and a half. It's called CHS. It's called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, right? And what this does is that they have found in certain people that long-term use of cannabis has had a counteractive effect on their body, where actually them using cannabis makes them sick. They start vomiting, they start having body ailments and all these other things. These are rare things that we don't have the answers for. Doctors don't know why this happens to individuals that use cannabis for even a long to medium amount of time. And the only way for them to figure out this type of syndrome is for them to have research, to have that federal funding, like Top Dolphin articulated earlier, that is not going to be given to them because we have restricted federal access of having marijuana, not only as a Schedule I drug, but being illegal by our government agencies and our system. And the thing here, real quickly, is that unless we have this type of access, right, to study this type of drug, right, how can we really make educated decisions in the long term in terms of making these restrictions, to making availability either more lenient or restrictive based on what we would learn in this hypothetical of maybe some detriments that marijuana may present to people on a long-term basis? And I think that's the crucial thing for me, at least.
Yeah, you can start with good word.
You go, Joe.
Yeah, so like that's why even like in the cited article, right, 94% of pot arrests in New York City targeted people of color. So if you get rid of the thing that's targeting 94% of a group of people for something, that's obviously a very good outcome. And there's obviously gonna be more to that too. So
you guys, I don't understand why we keep saying there's not a lot of research. There's plenty of research, and there's plenty of research.
There's not.
There's plenty on CBD. There's plenty of research on CBD and effects on epilepsy, on effects on anxiety, on effects on Alzheimer's, on dementia. On
sure. Is CBD marijuana?
Just CBD oil stems from, the only thing people really want from marijuana is THC, and THC is the part that affects the high of weed.
But I like the suck. I like to suck.
You do. I know you go to your local porn studio and you keep using that. But
I just support local businesses, and you're trying to compare marijuana to CBD. So one of us is in reality.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to support local businesses, but you're stopping them from coming about.
No, stop it. CBD and THC are the actual components.
I just want to pay taxes, bro.
The only reason we have medicinal marijuana is because we know there's CBD in it.
Right, but if you were so here's the thing. Do you think that if you were to poll all weed smokers in the United States, they would say the reason why they smoke marijuana is because of CBD?
I don't.
Wait, are we going to include Kamala Harris in that?
Like, I'm not going to do a poll on that because there's no reason to poll marijuana users to see if they're using it medicinally. Of course, they're not using it medicinally because they didn't get most.
Yes,
of them
they
are.
What?
Most. So you're gonna say
they do use it.
You're gonna say
there are so many people who use weed medicinally and recreationally. They use it for both. There are many people who do that.
Good for those people who got a prescription for their medicinal marijuana. Matter of fact, there's like 29 states right now that has legal organizations for you to get marijuana medicinally. And there's
Wait,
also other
29?
Yes, I can name them off. I can name them off right now.
All right, I'm gonna name 19 for you. Arizona, Arizona, Montana, Utah, North Dakota, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Louisiana, Kentucky, Florida, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. Which state did I miss?
Did you say Alaska?
Yes.
You said Alaska. So Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington, D.C. That's 29.
I mean, DC
and they all have legal organizations for medicinal marijuana.
Okay, so
as long as
I don't understand what we're trying to.
Not enough.
So let's not play these games. Like
but what states have recreational use?
You don't need. I don't.
So you need them for the lobby.
I want to tell you. I want to tell you on this.
No, you don't.
Right? You need people.
Go ahead. What's your question?
I want to ask a quick question. This is the thing, right? There's something I think that when you said that there are studies, right? There's not enough studies because we do not have federal regulation actually restricts certain clinical trials, right? There's
on CBD or THC. On CBD or THC.
Wait, I'll explain. I'll explain it to you. I'll explain it to you. Listen, we cannot study the complete chemistry, right, of marijuana unless THC and certain clinical trials are extracted, right? You need to understand the full essence of marijuana and how that affects on body chemistry to certain syndromes like I listed before that we can't answer because we don't have the restrictions on clinical trials that can be researched or even utilized on control groups of researchers. They have barriers. There's even studies, I remember when I was reading maybe 2 years ago in California where they couldn't even bring marijuana on campus for certain clinical trials. So they had these caravans where they would actually conduct certain studies outside on campus grounds in certain bands. Now, this is like some crazy method, but these colleges need large federal funding to launch out trials, right, and control groups that can actually answer these questions, like the syndrome I laid out to you, right, that can't be answered on the restrictions now that they have in place on how researchers and universities can conduct these clinical trials. That's with THC and CBD as full within marijuana.
That's cute, CGI. That's cute. You brought up a study from 2 years ago. Here's a study from 2020 on the molecular structure of CBD.
This is not a study, what I brought up. That's not a study what I brought.
So you didn't bring up a study. All right. So 2018. We're in 2021.
What I said to you is that what's what I'm saying to you? What I said to you was not a study. What I said to you was that something that happens as a reference to many universities now today, that there are limits to them even bringing marijuana on campus to conduct even the restrictive clinical trials that they're allowed to under the federal government.
You don't need to have marijuana you don't need to test marijuana as a whole. Matter of fact, that's not even how it works. You're gonna break marijuana down to the molecular structure in the lab stage. You're gonna break it down to the CBD.
Wait. Azzy, you're just wrong. I'm sorry, but
so you're not gonna break.
Chemistry doesn't work that way.
When you test, like for example,
work that way.
It doesn't.
Yo, I'm telling you, someone
you test part and you test the whole because sometimes the parts of the different items, like so, let's say you like test THC and you test CBD. It is very, very possible that you can test these things individually, and then when you test the final product, you have a different result. This is why a lot of times that when you do like your PhD like chemical analyses of different things and their effects, and then you go and do clinical medicine trials on things, that they have different effects on patients. If it was so simple as we test the parts so it's gonna like the outcome of the whole is gonna be the same, then we would never have to do like human testing on like drugs, because like we could just test the parts and be like, oh, we don't have to test the final product because it works.
Yo, imagine how fast Operation Warp Speed that'd be. Holy shit. They'd be like, after 2 months of research, we got it. Like, that's it.
Albeit that may be true.
Imagine society if chemicals work like Legos.
And the other thing is, you said that there's like all of
that
this...
THC is THC is the proponent that induces the high. That's the only reason why we want the THC. That's the only reason. That's
but
and then to Joe's little to Joe's snippet where he said, "Let's test every weed user to see if they would still use CBD. If
Test?
still use, poll marijuana users to see if they would still use marijuana if it had no THC." I would say, yeah.
Listen, man. I had a whole night yesterday.
If they can only use the medicinal warrant of marijuana, which is mainly for the CBD, not for the THC, because it's not the high.
But you don't know this
because listen, when you're hang on, top. I got so black pilled. I got so black-pilled after Rob North strawmanned me for 2.5 hours yesterday. So I'm not going to let someone else strawman me on something I didn't say. What I'm saying is one thing that can help lead to different types of policy changes, so I'll make it incredibly as clear as I possibly can, is that you have to also poll individuals. You also have to see what the public feels about these things and why they feel that, like, oh, why do you think you need to smoke weed? Why do you smoke weed recreationally? Why do you smoke weed medicinally? Then you create all these things, and then you create, like, okay, it seems like people are smoking weed recreationally because of X. So let's look at X, and then like, okay, what about why within X? This is why I'm clarifying it, because I'm noticing.
If I didn't negate.
You're saying that, like, okay, do you think you need to poll individuals to get an idea on certain policies?
It helps, but
why does it help? Why does it help?
Because it builds a cultural stigma around it, and it
sure.
helps
do you think we would have? Sure. Do you think we would have passed civil rights legislation if we never did any type of polling or research on individuals in the United States?
I didn't say don't do polls, but I'm saying it's most likely. I'm trying to make the point. It's most likely that they would not smoke weed if there was no THC involved.
Right, what if they just wanted to try it? Like, how would you know? Like, they would want to try it at least like once.
Wiggle, you are not out here smoking weed.
I think there's a very large population. I think there's a big population of weed users that you're ignoring, where like so many people use weed because they don't want to use more intense or hard drugs. So it's like, if you talk to a bunch of weed users and say, hey, this is the thingy that makes you high, do you want just hardcore that? They'd be like, fuck no.
Listen, like Azzy, I thought like you could have easily pilled us. You could have easily pilled us on some other shit, right? Like I was expecting you to go on some like lib ass take of saying, well, crime has increased in many of the cities where recreational use is legal, which is true. Homicides in Seattle, Denver, and other major cities that had legal marijuana also saw an increase in crime. But then also, as you saw, homicides also just increased generally across the United States, including bigger cities like Baltimore, New Orleans, Kansas City, and Chicago.
You had something in your back pocket for that.
I know. It's not that. Listen. Like, real talk. It's not that I don't have stuff in my back pocket. You just underestimate how much rope I have to just get you on shit. Like, because I actually look into these things, man.
Let's go. Let's go to Wiggle. He's been waiting.
Yeah, so there's two things here. One is like, first and foremost, like Azzy, is that yes, I would still buy it if I didn't get a high, because I'm just a great citizen and I want to pay taxes. I want to pay for the country. The second thing is, all right, you got to think about this, right? Everyone's focused on the state game, but you have to think of like the population, the amount of people that are okay with this. If you have mass exoduses coming out of like New York and like California, etc., and they are legalizing, and the people are coming from their states, you know where they're going? They're going to places and being like, damn, you know what I miss? I miss being able to smoke weed legally. And that's going to change things. And eventually, you're going to be stuck with the reality where you're going to have more and more states that are going to legalize. And eventually, we're going to get a president who's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to federally legalize marijuana. All right, it's just better to be on board.
We don't need federal to legalize it, because on the state level we're legalizing it already.
Wait, no, because you don't. You do understand that, like, the federal government can just strong arm you and say, "Fuck your state laws. I'm gonna go in here and crack down on this shit." They can do this at any time. Anytime.
But that's not gonna. But Joe Biden. Okay, from another administration, yes, Joe, that is true. But we have Joe.
Another administration? The Biden administration just did this.
Biden just cracked on who?
Oh my God! No. I'm tapped.
Hold on.
I'm tapped.
I think the
Biden just clearly said right now that he's pushing to decriminalize marijuana.
No, you didn't say he was pushing. You said it was for it. But let's see.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'll go to you next, CGI. But at the same time, like it had that bullshit where they asked staffers within the White House to voluntarily tell them whether they were using any sort of drugs, right?
Oh,
People who admitted they were using weed got fired. Like what?
Tell 'em.
This is not an administration that's dedicated to decriminalizing drugs. And then on top of that, there's Biden's entire 40-year history
is not
within
the
the
same
Senate.
thing as being arrested.
Hold on.
No,
You want to know what? Wait,
Stop. That's a great line. I'm gonna use that next time I fire someone. Listen, it could be worse. You could get arrested. This could be
I will
worse.
not let this stupidity stand.
Wait,
Like,
as you know,
y'all
as
can
you
say
know,
whatever
the
you
problem,
want. Believe whatever you want.
the problem.
Boo-hoo.
Okay, listen, Azzy. So I don't know. I don't like that. Like honestly, when I heard that sounded like really suspicious. I have to agree with Prime on this one. Like, if we go along with like what that is, like with what the story is now, then like that matters because it kind of sets like an idea of what the Biden administration, like how they view like weed usage or people who use weed, and like how they may not want to engage with those kinds of people. So it may not be be that they're like not putting them in jail.
Honest, when they could have just been like in
Joe is out.
When you're working, you can talk to you can talk to a bunch of veterans. You can talk to people who are in active service. They don't have to tell you what they're actually taking. They'll ask you, but you don't have to tell them. You could decline to say, hey, I don't want to say what I'm taking.
Well, it's
Can I ask you a question?
You got fired for being honest.
Now
you
it's important that they.
Can I ask you a question? Let's say we had a no. Let's say we have a world. Let's say Biden. He's like, you know what? I like World War II veterans. Okay, we're gonna give them all these benefits, right? And then he finds the World War II vets in his like administration. He finds out that they're like World War II vets, and he fires them. And it's like, okay, like damn, that's kind of weird. Like I thought you were like,
yeah.
They're not in prison, so obviously
they're not.
Always remember, Biden was the one that was pushing for like getting steroids out of fucking baseball. Think of how much more fun baseball would be. People wouldn't be talking about like football and basketball.
Bro.
Baseball might still have been America's sport.
Bro, there are years. There are so many more years that you could give to Rob Gronkowski. Like, come on now. He already just does it anyway.
Well, he has CBD. Go
You don't need a tent. Oh no, he does no.
All right.
There's
you can buy sheets.
You are not.
You can
Listen.
buy you can buy clothing made out of hemp. You can buy sheets made out of hemp.
Azzy has just
You don't
listened
need
to
to smoke it.
24 hours of
I'm
Joe
just saying-
Rogan.
I'm-
He just
I'm
has
just
it on repeat.
I'm just
bro.
saying that Cam Newton.
Joe out here smoking.
Cam Newton wasn't taking CBD when he tore his ACL in a playoff game and still
I
kept
bet you
playing.
he is now.
That's
I
not
bet you he
CBD,
is
my
now.
friend. If that's
I bet you
CBD,
he
sign
is
me
now.
up. Sign me up tomorrow. But I don't think that's how CBD works, my friend.
So
You don't turn into a super soldier.
I just want you to understand, like the reason Prime called out that like the White House, they say like, oh yeah, we're working about decriminalization. Wait, how many of y'all take weed? And then just like fire them all. The reason that's important, even though they didn't get sent to jail, is that it shows you how contradictory the administration is. They may not have sent them out to jail, but then that action in and of itself suggests you know what they think about people who use weed.
Who cares what they think? They're out here saying, who cares
I don't care what they think. It tells me how wishy-washy they're going to be about whether they send people to jail or not.
Listen,
Biden on all sorts of like experimental shit, and he doesn't want people to smoke weed. Come on.
Listen, those staff were no angels, all right?
Just because they didn't want their staff to smoke weed doesn't mean they don't want regular
Let's get
citizens to
CGI,
smoke
and
weed.
CGI has been trying to jump in. Go ahead, CGI.
Yeah, just to something Joe said before that I heard as a response to saying that Joe Biden isn't doing that. What I think what Joe's trying to say is that the ability is still into the federal government in many cases to actually intervene on things that have to do with marijuana, even legalization, right? This even goes to the Commerce Clause, where federal government has jurisdiction on interstate commerce, and especially when it comes to marijuana. The question is that how this will be possibly limited if it was brought up to the Supreme Court and things that matter with federalism, right? We understand this delegates that states and the government have certain rights, but it doesn't mean that the ability for the federal government to actually strong arm or play or be a role into actually having some type of regulation or punitive punishment for individuals, even if the context is marijuana, is absurd. Like maybe Joe Biden isn't doing it, but the ability for any administration to do that, specific to the constants, is still on the table. So I think that what Joe is trying to say here is that if we do legalize at the federal level, right, this ability to actually have a clash between states and federal government in specific contexts, especially in interstate commerce, would be out of the way. It wouldn't be something we have to think about every
No,
day.
it won't be out of the way because the next we can pass a law federally now, and then your next administration comes along and says, hey, we don't, and pass new administration to put restraints on the past law. It doesn't matter what they pass now.
Wait.
Hold
But
on,
it's
what?
so much harder, dog. Hold on. It's so much harder to repeal legislation than it is for things like words or executive orders and stuff like that. That's like one of the main reasons that you try to like pass things into legislation, because it is very hard to get rid of.
Just
Like
ask Joe Biden to pass an executive order.
No executive order.
are not legislation. Do you know how many
executive orders? I'm sorry, I just want to say executive orders are only direction of policy, not implementing some type of legislation. It directs how policy legislation should be spearheaded and how it should be actually.
Well, I think we saw under Trump that that's basically not true when you can introduce tariffs. But but I mean, the whole thing is, like, day one of Biden's presidency, he repealed so many of Trump's executive orders. So if you want like long-lasting, like, executive orders aren't healthy for our political system. Like, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're needed, but if you want long-lasting change in the United States, especially in like drug policy that like affects African Americans more than most other groups in the United States, you want long-lasting change that's on the books, and the way you do this is policy. So it doesn't matter if he can just pass an executive order, because the next president could take it away, could not, and we could end up back where we were before the Biden administration.
Yeah, to reinforce Top Dolphin.
It's also important to realize that, like, Azzy, you can't really pass an executive order. It'd be so, you couldn't really pass an executive order where Biden is like, hey, we're gonna decriminalize all like all marijuana users, right? Or like the usage of marijuana, because you can't do it, because at that point, like, Biden would have to send in federal troops in like all the states, and that would be so politically
Wait a minute, Polar. Hang on 1 second. Didn't we have one time when?
Keep going, Polar.
Hold on. Didn't we have another time when a president thought something was like right for a particular group of people, but then even when he said like this group of people is no longer under these certain conditions, they had to strong arm states in order to cooperate? Was there another point in history where that happened?
There was. It was the civil rights movement.
Really? What?
Interesting. Try to compare legalization.
No. Also, let's not forget. Wait.
Wasn't there like a proclamation or something? I'm pretty sure it was a proclamation about something about emancipation. Blah blah blah. Confederacy sucks.
Okay, one time. Wiggle.
We have people of color in prison right now. Yes, if you're talking about expunging, it is civil rights. Thank you very much.
But that was on a. Oh no!
Can I finish my point from earlier?
Yeah, go
ahead.
Okay. So the difference would be that, like, unless there's like an act, like the point at which like the executive branch could like go in and do that to states would be through, like, you'd have to pass some form of policy. If states were like, nah, we don't want to do that, then you can set it in. But like, my understanding is the most that like a Biden administration could do by itself is do what Obama did with like California, and like that at best, like that's the best that could happen. So if the federal government is like,
enough.
That's not. Wait. That he's not really. He's already like they're already doing that though. You realize
is it not good enough?
Wait, that's what we have now, Azzy. The thing is like places like New York, places like California, like I'm pretty sure on a federal level, it's still a crime, right? That's a federal like it's still
to have more than a Ziploc worth of marijuana.
No, to use. Yes. I'm pretty sure it's still illegal to use on a federal level.
It's to have more than a Ziploc bag on you.
You're also diminishing the fact that you can just like I can roll down my window in New Jersey. It could just smell like weed, and the officer just tell me step out of the car and search my shit. Like that's one thing.
How much weed you have on you?
No, not even to show how much weed. They can just find other bullshit, but they can say, "Hey, it kind of smells like weed in here."
You're conflating things together.
No, I'm not. This is part of the problem. Wiggle knows exactly what I'm talking about too.
No, you're conflating a bunch. You try to conflate porn with this. You're trying to conflate civil rights with this.
Listen, man. I'm so. I'm gonna be.
Right?
Listen, there's some people who I wish got their. Listen, man. There's just some people I wish who got their teaching certification revoked, but it's all right, man. Everybody like C's get degrees. You feel me? So like the thing that I don't understand here, right, is that we are pushing towards a society that is more accepting of marijuana, CBD, and all the things that you just described. However, I don't know if you're just doing this because like we need a villain on the panel or whatever.
No, I'm not doing this because we need a villain. I am the villain. I don't want anybody to.
So like, all right, so help me out here, right? So I'm just gonna hit you with some numbers, right? So 545,602 people in 2019 were arrested on cannabis-related crimes. That's 9% higher than those arrested of violent crimes of that exact same year.
You said that before,
we do? Yeah. What should we do about that problem?
Let's get into the finite of the
sure.
What is crime?
Arrested. Not what is crime. We don't gotta get that minute. We don't gotta get that minute. How much were these people? How much marijuana was on each individual person during these arrests?
Enough to get them arrested.
How would that change your answer?
Well, I'm pretty sure we just New York. If I read the article right, the NPR article saying if you have a zip means a Ziploc bag worth of weed.
Zip is an ounce. Let's about it so nobody.
It's more than an ounce. It's like 28. It's like 3 ounces. It's like 3 ounces. 3 ounces, bro.
Also in New York, right? 94% of the pot arrests targeted people of color. Additionally, you're 3 times more likely to be charged with pot possession as a Black American in New York City.
Wait, Azzy,
think about that as you navigate your answer.
How much weed that people have on them? Like, if people are going, if we're using my fucking taxpayer dollars to go and put these people in jail for like, why does it matter?
Weed smokers are revealing themselves.
So what? I have never smoked weed in my life. I would. I 100% would, but I have never.
The potential weed smokers are revealing
themselves. But who cares?
Like mine.
Okay, my first question is, because when you walked on this panel in the beginning, you were like, oh, I basically agree with Polar and Joe and Lyra that we should all be able to smoke weed, and you fell in line like a good boy,
no,
and now you're coming around here.
No. I thought no, because the question was,
what is the problem?
Dolphin too, bro.
Wait,
Dolphin,
do you think that people should go to prison?
I'm a whale out here, bro. You
do you think that people should go to prison for smoking weed? Yes or no?
It depends on how much they have on them.
Why?
No, but the thing is, just so we're clear, just so we're incredibly clear, this is 5,000. No, just so you're incredibly clear here, because you're strawmanning me again. The 545,602 people on cannabis-related crimes. Period. I'm not saying smoking. I'm not saying possession. It encapsulates all of this. If you take all the violent crime in the United States last year, in 2019. 495,771 people.
Joe, I don't
like,
care.
How do you get?
I want to know how many of those people got arrested for having.
Would you do the same thing for? Would you
the illegal amount of marijuana on them?
Should we do the same thing? Hold on. I got this. Hold on. So wait. So Azzy,
it's like saying.
Azzy, help me.
No. I don't want to help you, Joe. I don't want to help you at all.
Azzy,
Joe, it's like you clearly don't want to help over 500,000 Americans.
Hold on, Azzy. I got a question.
It's a million.
What is it?
More than a zippy on you, you going to jail, bro.
Wait.
I have a question.
I'm not sure what
is
it do here, honestly.
Weed smells like ghetto soap, and I don't want it on my street.
Oh my god.
Wait, Azzy. Why?
You stink, bro.
What about
my streets? If you gotta do time, you better be careful, bro.
Would you do this? Okay, so would you hold on? I'm getting kind of annoyed here. Would you want us to do the exact same thing for the violent crimes? Should we go and pick every single violent crimes last year, all under 500,000, and be like, well, where are these violent crimes here?
Hold on, Joe,
how big was the knife?
What do they hide when they did the
Stop,
crimes?
because you're not being honest. Because all those violent crimes are conflating all violent. It could be a little.
You are such a fucking hypocrite.
No.
You are such a fucking hypocrite.
It's not, Joe. Because
I'm
those
just like,
violent
why
crimes.
does it not
I'm
matter?
saying,
Like,
you gotta
as
be
the answer-
particular with this.
So
What does violent crime mean? Somebody
As
who's
in, I-
little.
I want to know where your head's at. I really want to know where your head's at.
Come on now, you know what violent crime means.
Okay.
It could be as little.
But
as fist
what's a
fight.
cannabis related crime then?
Well, cannabis related, from my knowledge, means you
Shut the
have
fuck
more
up. You
than
don't know.
legal
Shut the
amount.
fuck up. You
have
don't know.
more than
You
a-
do not know.
No,
You do not know. And you know that crime is a social issue.
Okay.
So don't even say shit.
All right. Okay. All right. So look. I'm not sure there's much more we could do here. It might be best just to move on.
Wait.
Whoa,
Can I
there's
ask
another part of
one
this
more
question.
question?
I want to
Ask a question. Well, I got a question.
No, I want to interview. I want to interview as I want to interview question. I'm trying to
weed off my
thinking of
street.
his mind.
All right. Fine.
Wait, if you want weed off your streets, right? If you want weed off your streets,
You
then
help
why
everyone
would
bring them
you
into their
put
houses?
for people to have less than a Ziploc baggie? Why wouldn't your argument be that we should get rid of it completely?
Because
I don't
I'm
understand.
not. Because I'm a good human being, and I know you guys
Wait,
still want to
wait,
smoke.
wait.
As you-
I can't
joking or not?
I can't do anything about it.
If you saw an
I'm
old
not
woman,
the devil,
right?
top off.
If
you
I
saw
don't
an
wanna
old-
say,
I wanna
hey,
interview you. I
no
wanna
weed at
interview
all.
you.
I know that some of y'all are gonna
okay,
smoke
all right,
weed.
we-
You know, and you know what, Dolphin? To your point,
Okay.
if we say no weed at all, you know it's gonna be like
Okay.
speakeasies. People, it's gonna run rampant.
Azzy, I want to know where your
Run
head's
rampant
at.
if I say no
Okay,
weed at all.
One time. Okay. All right, look, we're gonna do two more things here, right? We're gonna, Lyra, she's gonna ask a question. Az is gonna answer the question, and then I'm gonna ask a panel a question from our good friend GSU Gambit. I do that for him because he's a good supporter of the channel. So Lyra.
All right, so Azzy, what is it about weed and owning it in amounts that you think are too much is so bad that you think it's like, or maybe you don't think this, that you think it's okay to criminalize people and jail people on a much larger scale than for violent crimes? What it is about weed that is so bad that it's okay to criminalize people in big numbers and not people who do like actual violent crimes hurting people? What is it about weed? People smoking too much weed.
Listen, from what I understand from THC, it evokes a high, it evokes an emotional response. From what I understand anecdotally, and from Science Direct, the hundreds of articles on THC, it has an effect on the body that makes people less. What is it? It affects the way they eat. It affects their memory. It affects their.
Is it that you think it's too dangerous, or
I
is
don't
it
even
more
think it's that
that
dangerous.
you just don't like
I feel like from what I understand, when it's used in a certain beyond the normal, but beyond certain usages, to CGI's point, right? He was talking about certain ailments you can get from too much CBD. We don't have enough research on what this will do to people. So if I just let people walk around,
is this race realism weed edition? This has got to be race realism weed edition.
So that you would agree that more research would be very beneficial.
She asked me a question. I have plenty of research on CBD. All right, CBD. I got plenty of research on THC. Yes, putting it together. Putting it together may have.
Okay. All right.
Can we move on? These are so bad.
I get to finish answering the question.
Oh yeah, you know you're gonna do this.
Prime, that was just the introduction, man. Come on, you gotta let it finish.
Listen, we don't got enough information. I don't want somebody. Hold on, I don't want somebody walking on the street. Too much weed one day, more than a Ziploc bag worth of weed.
Come on, though. Like, if it was an old woman with groceries.
Hold on, Wiggle.
We do not
Wiggle.
help
I know
her
you
carry
want
your
to smoke
groceries.
weed. I understand. I
So
know you
if
wanna smoke
somebody's
weed.
carrying too much
Just-
weed, why wouldn't you help them by holding some of that weed?
I don't want that weed on my streets. Number one.
This
What-
man is
okay,
so
so hold on,
bad
hold on.
faith. Can we just-
What
can we just
exactly?
move on?
What is?
Can
yeah,
we
but-
just move on?
I
He's so bad faith.
I don't
It's
know.
Stop
ridiculous.
trying to
Guys
run
are
away,
bothering me.
Top.
Okay, look, we're moving on. So, hold on, let me ask this question from our man GSU Gambit. He wanted me to ask this question. I'm gonna do it for him. So he says, "Can you ask the panel how silly they are willing to take this? We believe in all drugs being legal. They think all of these drugs should be legalized for our black youth? Question mark. So, do you think this should be legalized for kids?"
I'm sorry. Define all drugs.
You know what? I'll take it on the limb. I think that I would decriminalize all usage for minors. I don't think they should go to jail for that.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
You're not gonna put a minor in jail unless you're going to juvenile hall.
What?
This is interesting. Like, which one of us were like
Joe,
advocating for
before you
legally
interrupt,
buying drugs?
you out
As a
here
young
just
kid.
ready to combat everything. This is why I don't engage. Don't engage with Joe.
Okay, so all right, so this will be.
I want to say the Polish point.
Let's do this. Let's do this. One at a time. This will be your final statement on this, right? All right. So, Polar, did you made your statement? Anything else?
No, yeah, that's just my take. I don't think maybe if we want to talk about sellers, that's a different conversation. But for young users, I don't know how putting this massive mark on the record is going to help them out. So
okay, all right, fair enough. Joe Lewis.
Yeah, I'm of the same camp too. Also, I think the first place we should start, wherever we start, is allowing for the open research of the things that we want to know more about. We want to know more about the health effects of all types of drugs. And every drug has a different relationship with your structure, your body, and we understand that. So if anything, I think we should all at least support being able to research this further so we can not have these sort of half-cocked anecdotal cop takes for about an hour and a half, you know?
Oh my god. All right, Lyra.
I agree. We do not have nearly enough research on how weed affects younger people. Calm down. We don't have enough. Chemistry doesn't work like Legos. You can't say I got a square and a triangle put together make a house. That's not chemistry. It don't work like that. Anyway, we need more research. We need more research on how cannabis and weed can affect the younger generation, and then we can get a tighter grasp on what ages that we should. But I definitely don't think it should be legal for all ages. It shouldn't be. Straight up, we should be decriminalized, period. But as for legalization, I don't think it should be available for all kids. But before we can put rigid structures on what ages, we need more research.
Okay, all right.
All right, go ahead, As.
Not it may not be my turn yet. Y'all too jumpy, I swear.
Oh.
that weed.
We'll save Azzy for last. We'll save Azzy for last. Adam.
All right. The first thing I want to say is, Azzy has about as many brain cells as he has pixels on his camera, if he actually believes the words coming out of his mouth. But at the end of the day, when it comes to drugs, not just weed, the big thing is that we shouldn't be at the end of the day. I want people to have happy lives. I want people to do good things, and the best way to do this seems to be to decriminalize drugs. When it comes to crime. It seems like putting people into the system by punishing them, bringing down the hammer on them, putting them in jail, or whether it's fining people, just hurts people in poverty more than anybody else and doesn't help with any of the things that I want. And when it comes to putting substances in your body, who fucking cares what people put in their own body? It's their body, and as long as you're not harming other people, it doesn't matter. It just seems like decriminalizing drugs. As I hear you laughing, but this is just facts, man. When it comes to legalizing drugs, it seems like if we want people to not, it doesn't seem like legislation stops people from using drugs. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to try to get the people as much help as possible. And if we can not imprison 500,000 people in order to put that funding towards rehab and stuff like that, because I love rehabilitative justice, that would be great and help the people who have problems and who are harming themselves and others.
Okay. All right, Wiggle.
I think you should just decriminalize all drugs. and then like you legalize a few. Probably like weed is the easiest one. Other than that, perhaps MDMA, and then maybe like psilocybin, shrooms. I think we can work to legalize more drugs in future after they're all decriminalized. I don't really see a reason not to. When it comes to legalization, I think the magic number people are going to say is 21 because of like alcohol. But I think like I don't see a problem with like 18. I still fall through the line of like if you're willing to like put people overseas, have somebody like serve their country and potentially die for the country. It's kind of funny to tell them that they can't get high, you know. So like I think that always holds true for me. Outside of that, there was one part that I really wanted to focus on the question, the second half of the question.
Me too.
That was really interesting. Perhaps we could. But other than that, yeah, that's all I had to say. Azzy, you're a good sport. Don't let everybody insult you. You're a good sport, even though your take was dog shit.
The worst. But yeah,
You're so lucky he's here, Top Dolphin.
Oh wow! Shots fired.
Sometimes Superman has to work with Lex Luthor.
Okay. Wow. But to Wiggle's point, I did want to touch on that last part of the question, but we got azified here, so we just couldn't do anything else. Go ahead, CGI.
So yeah, my final thing on this is that I do think that I'll go for Wiggles' point quickly. I do think that all drugs should be decriminalized. I'm on that train. But going specifically to marijuana, I'm going to keep harping this. We need more research, right? The NIDA, which is responsible for actually giving certain institutions or giving researchers marijuana, is in control of this. They have to jump through hoops, not just to go through the DEA, but also since the FDA said multiple times that they can't say anything, any regulation or any type of synopsis on marijuana being beneficial because they don't have enough evidence, right? Even today, researchers by law can't do phase 3 clinical trials. Until you get phase 3 clinical trials on marijuana, you can't successfully or out of the mindset actually say, is this drug helpful for the public by large, and how you can actually make some restrictions or lack of restrictions to make sure the public is safe. This is for anyone who's against marijuana. You should want to make sure the public is safe. And if you don't know the answers to questions like I presented before on these syndromes and ailments, then you need more research to follow up on this thing. And the only way to do that is to first decriminalize and legalize marijuana. Now, going to Gambit's point, yes, I would have no problem actually with Black youths, even specifically in that question, to use drugs. It's specifically on decriminalization. Now, I believe education is the foot forward. I believe that their communities are the foot forward to understanding effects of certain drugs. But I am definitely against putting people in prison, especially young Black youths, into prison, because I've already seen with my eyes how this has affected people in the prison system, and I would not want them to go through that. So,
all right, thank you so much. Let's go to Marks.
Yeah, sorry I didn't have a lot to say on this topic. I just don't smoke and I don't have a lot of experience on it. But I am for decriminalization of all drugs, but I guess weed weed is a good start for now. I think that having like an age limit on it, I'm kind of mixed on it. I'm not really sure, but a bunch of people brought up anecdotes to where they're saying like weed helps them focus. In my experience, it's the opposite. Particularly in the high school I go to, I know a bunch of people who smoke weed and use it as sort of like an escape mechanism. A bunch of people who smoke weed who don't really focus in class or not. Now, whether that be correlation, not causation, that's up for debate, but I think it's something to look into. Yeah. Decriminalize all drugs. I don't want to live in Azzy's world where if you have a half an ounce over the required limit of weed, you go to federal prison. But
Okay. I think the real problem there, man, is that like your school teachers are just so boring and bad at teaching that like the students have to get high so that they can stay in the classroom and try to learn through osmosis. And I think that like
someone stop messing with your mic. Holy shit. Go ahead.
I think if the teachers were better, like then those kids wouldn't smoke weed. You know, they'd want to just be there listening.
Okay.
True.
All right. I don't know who's messing with their mic, but please knock it off. Holy shit. All right. Okay, let's go to Azzy. Boy.
Oh boy. You listen, number one, Top said let everybody's a grown adult. Let's let them do whatever drugs they want. Okay, so it's okay to smoke crystal meth and all that. Let's just make that socially okay. Wiggle said let's decriminalize all drugs. So let's put all types of opioids and crystal meth back in the streets because it's okay. We're all grown adults here. Joe conflated. No, I don't trust.
As far as you know, it's just a Dasani full-gallon bottle.
As a black man on the All Black Everything panel, a black man in America, no, I don't trust the average American to make the right decision. I'm sorry.
It's just Poland Spring, bro. Okay.
It's just Poland. Yeah, I got Poland Spring too, my brother. So anyway, I'm for the decriminalization of marijuana. If you just have over an ounce, hey, listen, and it's dependent upon your state because at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to your state government.
Just leave it up to the states, man. Come on.
Yeah, because that's what's going to happen anyway. Because 29 states already said, hey, we have medical fonts that you can go get a prescription, get your medical marijuana if you need to. Hey, doesn't have to be. Hey, fake your depression. That's what most people do anyway. Go to your clinic and say, hey, I have depression. They may give you a prescription for medical marijuana.
Then
you can smoke it as much as you want within the comfort of your own home. Just don't walk around with more than a zip, more than an ounce. You might get arrested.
Okay.
And to this take of that minors, if anything, you're going to juvenile hall, or they might try you as an adult, which we all know is wrong. So it's just affecting us differently. But I'm still like down with weed, bro. Down with weed.
So all right, this has been a weird one. As always on a Prime panel, it's been pretty weird. And we didn't even get to the part. The more interesting part I thought was the second half of the question, but we didn't actually get to touch that.
The business part.
Maybe we'll be able to touch it next time.
They didn't want to talk business because they don't know weed business. I knew it from the jump. They don't know weed business. That's why they didn't want to talk about it. They don't know. Joe doesn't know that about no weed business. I got plenty of entrepreneurs out here with their permits.
All right, Azzy, thanks for that, Azzy. Oh man, this is amazing. Yeah, we didn't even get to the business side of it, which I really want to touch. Maybe we'll do it like next week or something. But this was really funny. And I'll say this, right? In my chat, there's a person, Thesis Pieces. I see you out there, Thesis. And so for the individuals here who haven't been paying attention, haven't been watching the open panel, Thesis Pieces is a special person. They're a prosecutor, and they got you all on tape admitting to your terrible crimes. No, you're all going to jail.
I said I never.
We got your
hold up. No, wait.
Thesis, you know what to do. I will turn state's evidence. I will turn all these motherfuckers in.
Get them out of here, Brian.
We're the ever admitted doing something that I've never done.
Get these. We're trying to get progress, and these brothers are holding us back.
You can't prosecute a dinosaur. Okay.
I can't.
I would like to know
Literally
jurisdiction.
As long as I
get that man's IP address.
As long as I get immunity for all the things that I've done in my past, then yes, I will turn state's evidence on all these motherfuckers.
Listen, wait, I was the one who brought Reese's Pieces here. Okay, so I didn't say anything either.
His name is Thesis
I didn't say
Pieces.
anything either.
You're wrong.
I love it. I love it when the law does what it's supposed to do. Get him out of here.
Listen, all right, I didn't do it. All right, back the blue. All right, I didn't do anything. I'm not even black. I'm a dinosaur. I'm not even black.
I didn't say anything. I'm fine.
I just admitted to drinking crystal meth. So, you know,
I haven't met CBI before, but so far I'm so disappointed in these individuals. Brothers, sisters, is this where we've come?
The way you say individuals hits really different in this context.
This man out here advocating for Pornhub and the local...
Advocating for Pornhub? I've never said anything about Pornhub.
Local businesses.
I'm just saying Sarah J needs to respond to my messages. You're getting to this like weird type of like...
What were you guys discussing this whole time?
I think you're projecting,
If the shoe fits, Joe. If the shoe fits.
Okay, all right. Subpoenas in the mail, boys and girls. All right, just so you know, you got what's coming to you. All right, like I've been good and honest and a law-abiding citizen, so I got nothing to worry about. But So, okay, we'll move on to the next topic. All right, so we've been doing a new program for the video conferencing, and the sound has been kind of all over the place. So I think what we're going to try to do, maybe doing this just going forward, is use this for video and then Discord for audio. So for the rest of you guys, jump into the Discord, jump into the waiting room or something, and we'll move you over to the private room. Yeah, we'll go from there. Oh, Joe's already there. Nice. All right. Yeah, so jump in there and we'll get you all moved in. And all right, cool. CGI. Oh yeah, CGI. You got mine, right? Will that be okay for you, CGI? Because I know you're like on a phone right now. Do you do both?
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I could do both. Let me see.
Okay. Cool. So he'll jump in. Puller's there. Who else? Who are we waiting for? Lyra is working on it. Azzy's there. Okay. And what I'll have you all do is mute yourself on StreamYard, and then I'll leave myself unmuted. So don't mute the tab here. Just mute yourself in the program. Okay, and you all should be able to hear me, nonetheless. And is that everyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who are we waiting on? Oh, me. Fuck. Oh, me. And there's CJ. All right.
Oh my god.
Okay. I think I should be able to better control your sound through here. So. Yeah, Azzy, mute yourself in StreamYard. All right, good. Can you all hear me? Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
All right, great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, good. All right, so we'll continue like this. I'll have better control of your audio, and hopefully we can get things a bit more even. All right, but thanks, to everyone. Thanks for my audience. All right, let's go in. And the next topic, you think I would have that ready, but I don't have it ready at all, actually. The next topic is topic 2. Okay. Jenna Ryan, a woman who took part in the Capitol Hill riot, recently tweeted that she had nothing to worry about from law enforcement because she has blonde hair and white skin, quote unquote. She is certain that she will never see any jail time for her criminal behavior. Do you think this woman is correct? Is this an accurate representation of the American justice system? And what does this say about Black Americans seeking justice? Okay, so if you haven't seen what I'm talking about, this is a short video. I'm gonna throw it in my chat here, my Twitch chat. It's a short video. It's like 3 minutes long or something. And the important part's in the beginning. There's a woman. She took part in the January 6th riots, and she was didn't just take part in it. She was actively advocating for it to happen. she was all over social media talking about how much she wants this to happen, right? So a leader, you could say, right? But she hasn't been arrested as far as I know. She has yet to be arrested immediately. So she's still out there, and she tweeted, yeah, I have blonde hair and white skin, and so I'll be fine. I'm not gonna go to jail. All right, so I'm wondering what you think. Is she actually right? All right, so let's go to Polar.
Yeah, probably. That I mean, like it's in all honesty, what we see in the justice system like consistently is that white women tend to get off in comparison to like other like demographics in society. This is like a pretty historical thing as well. Like anyone ever seen The Birth of a Nation, where it's like the like it's a white, like there's a white actor in the role of like a black person with like blackface, and the whole narrative is that this black man like harasses and then like rapes this white woman, and they're like seen as like these characters in society that like rarely do no wrong, they can't harm anyone else, yada yada yada. And this is like kind of played into the justice system as well. So like she probably won't face time. She probably right. So sucks, but probably is the truth.
Okay. Cholos?
Yeah, I mean, like eliminating whiteness can lead to doing away with white privilege and even just like this take altogether. I think the biggest challenge is going to be from individuals who believe that by eliminating whiteness, you're participating in some type of race essentialism. Because I think that, like, again, if you eliminate whiteness, you can then inherently eliminate white privilege, and then we can have like a totally different conversation about this. Because in terms of her observation of those two systems, she's on point.
Okay. Let's go, Lyra.
Yes, unironically, she's totally right. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but I mean, come on, she stormed the Capitol and she's tweeting, seeing the brighter day. It's been months and she's still out. So it's like clearly there's a disconnect there. And I really like that Polar got into Birth of a Nation and what it did about the optics and like how often women, particularly white women, are coddled by the justice system and are partly rarely ever seen as the perpetrators or as guilty. And even if she were to face jail time, it wouldn't be that much. She would probably, let's be real, she'll probably get community service or just pay it off or just fine. She probably won't get, if she still won't see jail time, probably not. So sadly, she is correct. It sucks, but I mean, it is the state of our justice system.
Top Dolphin.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, there we go. Sorry, I'm fucked up with all this shit. I don't know. I didn't get to do a lot of research beforehand on this one because I worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. today. But I watched like the first like minute of that video just a second ago, and apparently she's been charged with like 4 felonies. Is she going to prison? I don't know. It depends on how like strong the case is at her, like what state she's in. Like she's in New York City and then like goes on social media and says something like this, like she's done. If she lives in like Kentucky or something, it could go either way. In general, there is a systemic problem, kind of like Polar pointed out, that like white women in particular, women in general are just like coddled by the justice system. White women very much so in particular, and men generally get the book thrown at them, especially black men. And she's definitely pointing at like a societal problem, even if she's kind of like doing so ironically or like by accident. Like she's like completely true in the statements that she's making.
A wiggle.
Yeah, so like I saw like in the question is like white, blonde, blue-eyed, and like I was immediately like I had this idea in my head. I'm not gonna lie, I had this idea in my head before I like went to the video and saw, and then I realized like there's a critical part missing from everything that you guys have been saying is that you also have to be exceptionally beautiful, and this person's not exceptionally beautiful. She might be white, she might be blonde, she might have blue eyes, but she's not exceptionally beautiful. And without that last part, no, you're not going to get away with like a lot of crimes, right? And I'm sure in Birth of a Nation they chose like a very attractive actress. Like I'm sure this is the case in a lot of these things. And like this woman, you know, she's not ugly, but she doesn't get to that category that gets you out of like
no pretty
committing
privilege,
crimes.
huh?
Like this. No.
No pretty privilege.
I mean, like, Jodi Arias did adjust how she looked to be in court, and they still hit her. So,
but wasn't her crimes against white people?
Yeah, she murdered her husband.
Yeah,
severely murdered her husband, actually.
And so is all right. Yeah, that's right. We'll see. All right, let's go with CGI.
All right, so how I look at it is actually that what she's saying actually proves the point of white privilege. She actually knows and acknowledges the gains that she actually has in a social environment, right? And her actually articulating that and explicitly saying that gives people like me to actually use as an example to people that don't understand that people know that they have some type of privilege based on who they look like in this country. Now, to the merit of possibly her being convicted, that's here nor there. But the thing shocking to me, kind of not shocking actually, let me refrain that, because I've seen videos in the past of women, white women, being pulled over, saying to the cops, "Oh, you can't arrest me, I'm not black," yada yada yada, and it just shows me how much white privilege is actually in many individuals' mindset, something they explicitly know they can use as a benefit, or at least try to articulate that they have a benefit by living in this country. And I think that's damaging, and I think that we all recognize, at least in this panel, I would think that white privilege has existed in this country for a very long time. And this is something that I believe our white counterparts should be able to come with us and talk about how this is existing, no matter who you are, right?
Marks.
Yeah, will she get off? Very high likelihood. I mean, this stick with white women has been going on for literal centuries. I mean, what was it? A couple years ago, Amber Geiger literally got walked into that as a cop, literally walked into that guy, black man's house and shot him. And her defense was like, shit, my bad, I was tired. And she got like 6 years and like probation. Like shit was crazy. I mean, well, I don't know. This has been going on for centuries. What she did was nearly like highlighting an issue that was clearly present. Hopefully, by highlighting this, like by it coming straight from a white woman, hopefully some like white people who are not so convinced will actually be sort of swayed on the existence of white privilege. But you can only dream. Also, I got to push back against Wiggle. I mean, like for that like hotness thing. I mean, some people have just have low standards. I mean, Joe Lewis likes Sarah J. I mean, anything's possible. I don't know.
She's an equal opportunity employer of Black Americans. How dare you?
You put respect on Sarah J. Right?
You put respect on Sarah J. Okay.
Wow,
Marks.
Wow.
Respect
Listen,
sex
I'm just
workers.
saying. We don't stand Listen, in this space, we don't stand Alexis successes. So if you like Alexis successes as a Black person, you should really reconsider your body.
You should really
I agree.
reconsider
I agree
yourself.
with that.
But again, Polar, look up none of this. All right.
Okay, all I'll say is Marks woke up today and he chose violence. Okay, that's all I have to say.
All right. Let's go, Azzy.
Jay Jordan, that's all I'm gonna say.
So we're unmuting on Discord, right? You can hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jenna Ryan is an idiot. Blonde white people go to jail all the time, and she can too. So lock her up. She has no idea what she's talking about. Matter of fact, as soon as she got arrested, she was all apologetic. Oh, I bought into a lie. The lie is the lie, and it's embarrassing. I don't even know what that means. Lock her up. Let her do her time. And maybe she'll come out a reformed citizen the way
Smoke weed.
way it's supposed to. And I apologize to all my recovering porn addicts in the chat. They keep bringing up these names. They keep inflaming these areas. I'm sorry. I'm for you. I'm on your side. That's all I have to say. Lock this white dummy up. Lock her up. Lock her up.
Got you. All right. Wonderful. So let's go. Open the panel.
Yeah, like one of the things that frustrates me so often is that like we talk about so just to be incredibly clear, when I talk about whiteness, it's practices that produce white privilege. And then when we talk about white privilege, it's the prioritization of the expectations, needs, and desires of white people, right? So like by eliminating the practices that produce this type of privilege, you could at least curb some of this privilege in society. Like one of the expectations that you have is that if you feel that you are unjustly charged of a crime, that you might have the right representation in order to defend your case. And for Black Americans, it's not really seen. If you acted in such a way that was not as severe as other individuals, you expect that your defense will create something so that you can prove that in court, which has been shown to not be the case for Black Americans. So like I'd love to have a conversation about the practices that produce white privilege and white privilege at whole, but something that I'm really hoping, and this is really a call to chat because I can't see it right now. I'm just gonna tell you respectfully, just shut the fuck up for however long this topic is and just listen way more than you type,
I'm kind of I'm kind of behind Joe. I think it's kind of almost dangerous to go and say, oh, she's white, she's gonna get off. Because when we talk about things like whiteness, or we talk about things like white privilege, or we talk about things like the preferential treatment of white women in the justice system, we're talking about aggregates. And to say if we all go screaming, oh, she's gonna get off because she's white, and then she doesn't, like this is just another like anecdote that like the opposition gets to use to oppress Black people. And it's a much more interesting conversation to talk about like could she get off, does she get off? Nobody knows. It's a coin, well, it's not a coin flip because that would mean there's a 50-50 chance, but it's not like exactly like helpful, because at the end of the day, she could get the book thrown at her, because sometimes white people get the book thrown at them. But on average, that's not the case, especially with white women. Whether it has to do with how attractive they are, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, again, like that's why that's
Mhm.
prioritization, right? Like your needs, expectations, and desires because of whiteness are getting prioritized. That does not mean the prioritization leads to you getting that thing. That's why you can see that despite the fact that there is wealth inequality in America, especially among Black Americans, there are still white Americans that suffer from wealth inequality. Like the prioritization of something doesn't mean that every single person of a group is going to have the exact same type of outcome.
I think the real problem here is her acknowledging her phenotypes, right? To say this is why I will not have this outcome, right? I think that is the essential problem here. When you have individuals that actually recognize things, right, that that we all see that benefit them based on how our institutions, right, have instilled certain like social norms, right, and then how they utilize and recognize, hey, look, the normative through my eyes is that if I look like this, right, there's no way that I can be prosecuted. There's no way I can be like my Black counterpart. There's no way that I could be in a predicament where I'll actually have to face the criminal justice system. That, to me, is the root of the problem. Her actually acknowledging this and knowing that she has white privilege, and then using it as a justification to say, I will not face these charges. I will not face the outcome of my Black counterparts, essentially. And I think that's a huge problem.
Actually, I prefer.
I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think I think it's okay for like people to acknowledge this thing. That's actually extremely good. The problem comes when people would say, "Well, I should get away from this because I'm white."
Justification. That's what I'm saying. Justification.
Yeah.
Using the recognizing this.
No, there's a difference, because if you're using it, you could say, "I'm going to get away with this because I'm white," and that's the way the world is, and that's like a very descriptive thing that you can do. Now, when you moralize it and you say that I should get away with this because I'm white, and Black people should not get away with it because they're Black, that's like a whole different thing. Now, I don't know exactly what she said.
I think CGI agrees with you.
Yeah, I agree.
We agree with you.
I don't think.
Why are we trying to make a distinction between I will get off and I should get off? That's such a lame.
Well, it's a distinction because
it is a right distinction because
that you have white privilege and deciding that, well, I have white privilege and this is the way that the world should work. There is a very big difference between those.
Yeah, that is a difference.
All people, everyone who is either white or white passing or as light skin, however close you are to whiteness that you are, it is very important that we all acknowledge that. Television, people who are white acknowledge that they have white privilege, but there's a very big difference between seeing that you have white privilege and acknowledging that and deciding that, yes, this is right, this is correct, I should be able to get away with these things because I am white and or white passing, and this is the way that the world should work. There's a very big difference.
She was using should in that manner. She may have been using should as in the first example of saying, "Hey, white privilege exists."
No, because
I will get off.
Remember, you cannot control like its intent versus impact, right? Her impact, I guess, is not hitting for you the same way. Where I would argue that the impact that for everybody else, it seems that like we understand that she has a very intimate relationship in understanding the difference in her language when she says these things.
Yeah, I think what going to what Dolphin said, I think the difference here is like the difference is affirming something as is, right? And then using an alt claim or some type of alt measure to say, I recognize as is, and because it ought not to be charged, I ought not to be put.
No, she didn't say that. She said she would go to war.
But I'm saying
she didn't say I ought not to get arrested.
No, I'm saying the distinction between the two is what's harmful. That's why I said it was a problem. He was distincting between the two statements that one can recognize what is as is, right, in our society, and it's a difference to not only recognizing as is, right, but actually saying either you should not or should be in a predicament based on what as is, right, and that's where I feel like it's dangerous, right.
I feel that's the take is it's moot according to what we're talking about now, because Jenna is not saying I ought to not get out of jail. She's saying because I'm white, I'm not going to go to jail. So she's acknowledging white privilege, and at the same time, she's trying to like cast a spell and enact it. Like, hey, I'm gonna do this bad thing. I'm gonna say these things, and all of a sudden, no jail time.
Do you think it's correct that she thinks that way?
Oh no, because it's a fallacy. That's not true at all. Blonde white people go to jail all the time. She may not even be a
Yeah,
real
they go
blonde.
to jail.
Oh,
They
yeah.
go
So you're
Azzy.
like,
So
Hold on. No.
Mm.
Don't say Azzy. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I'm telling you. Blonde white people go to jail all the time. Is like we saying, it's based on how much money you have, what class you're in, like to Wiggle's point, how beautiful you are.
Wait, Azzy,
If you
would you
have
agree?
certain
Would you
Wait,
agree
features-
with this statement, Azzy? Would you agree with this statement? It's a class issue, not a race issue.
No,
Why do you put him
no,
in
it's
some
not no
class
class
reductionist
issue.
question?
She's literally
No,
Is that an
no,
officer
it
class
sounded like a
reductionist-
class
class
reduction.
reductionist
It literally
argument?
sounded like
no,
that. Tell
I'm
me
not. I'm saying
Tell
the
me not.
statement. I'm saying the statement she made is false because blonde white people go to jail. It's just based on how much money and what impact in society they have. Low
But
income
you
white people
understand that
go to
that
jail
sounds
all
class
the time.
reductionist, right? You
It's not
understand that sounds
reductionist.
class reductionist.
It sounds it, but if you broaden your mind and stop being so combative to things I'm saying, it's not
Wait,
Repeat your
reductionist.
statement again, then. Help me.
Wait, I think-
Repeat
wait,
your
like,
statement
I think-
again.
Wait, I think there's a
Repeat
better
your
It's a
statement.
fallacy to say that because I'm white and blonde, I will not go to jail because white blonde people go to jail all the time. Not at the same rates as black and brown people, but that's not the issue.
Okay, that is the issue. That is the issue. The issue is, right, that you making that last statement, you're already acknowledging there's a problem because
No,
wait.
he's
You're
saying
you're
let's
already
see
in
Jai
that last
finish.
statement. In that last statement, you're acknowledging, right, that there's a problem because you yourself said yes, white blonde people go to jail or prison, but compared to black people at higher numbers, you're acknowledging an issue, right? And I think now I understand what Mark's is asking you. The reason why he's asking that question, which will put you in a class reductionist box, right? Because the minimization of how race affects the criminal justice system by you acknowledging that later fact, right, goes against the either minimization or even the argument that it's more likely of her being rich or wealthy or this sort of thing, and then downplaying that, white blonde people go to jail all the time. Like, I think that's where the question is. So the real question here is, do you believe that race plays a significant role into the outcomes of individuals in comparison to, let's say, white women, and we'll compare to the same context, black women in this instance?
Yes, I will agree. I'm not going to combat that statement. Matter of fact, I said that statement myself.
Oh no, I just think that the problem was that they heard you kept talking about wealth and money and all this such a thing. So I think to Marx, he was saying, "Hey, look, why is he not alluding or at least articulating
Because I don't
one of
want
the largest factors?"
That's not the issue.
So wait,
I don't want to allude to the difference between how black and brown people go to jail and versus how to the rates that white people go to jail, because we're not talking about the rate. She made the statement saying, "I will not go to jail. I will not do jail time. The system has no effect on me because I'm white and blonde." That's the statement she made.
Yes,
she
but
nothing.
What you're saying is
Azzy, why do you think she made? Why do you think she made that statement? What do you think she was in comparison to?
Because
it seems
she's
like a
going
random
to the
statement.
values of America of keeping white blue-eyed blonde people on a pedestal, and we won't do anything bad to white blue-eyed blonde people.
So I don't think
I
don't think what Azzy's saying is too far off from what you're trying to say. Unless maybe I'm missing something. It's possible I'm missing something. But
what Azzy is saying is completely true.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
No. Yeah. So it seems like Azzy's saying is that like she's being white.
She's
being
saying
blonde,
she's immune.
Being blonde here isn't you're not bulletproof. Like, yes, you can go to jail. We all acknowledge this, right?
Yeah,
that you
we already
will go to jail.
As he's doing this thing that he does, where he makes descriptive claims as arguments and just like states facts instead of engaging with the prescriptive realities that we're trying to like move.
Because the prescriptive reality has nothing to do with the case.
Sorry,
I still think it's important
Lyra?
that Azzy.
Wait.
Okay, I still think it's important that Azzy still makes claims like that, because we still need to recognize that there is a large part of the population who will say exactly what Azzy is saying. It will meet it with their full chest. Not to say that Azzy is saying this ironically. I'm sure he's totally serious, but there are many people in the United States that say No, she's not going to jail because yes, she is white and blonde, and that's the end of story. As he at least has some sense to know that no, that's not the end of the story. Obviously, race does play a big factor in it, but it is still wrong for her to say, "Hey, I'm totally immune," because she's not totally immune. So there's nothing wrong with him pointing that out. However, I still think it's very important that we recognize the issue is that she recognizes that she has this white privilege.
Correct.
This is totally right. The problem there is that there are many people out there. Everybody who stormed Capitol Hill, they know that they have white privilege. That's why they did it, and they did it with their full chest and with no fear. And that is the issue at heart here. We know that she was. I mean, it was a very dumb thing for her to say. But the important part is that what she said isn't totally too off the mark. Because while she can still go to jail, because as he said, white people with blonde hair and blue eyes go to jail all the time. But when she said, I'm probably not going to, well, what she said, I ain't going to, that's still important because there are many people who think that. And the reason she said that is because our justice system has the tendency to behave that way, to coddle a woman, particularly white women, and not give them as strong sentences. Oftentimes don't even give them jail time unless it's really pushed for it in the media. So we should still make that connection. I don't think we should come down too hard on Azzy because what he's saying is factually true. And
I mean, yeah, what he's saying is factually true. But what we were talking about at the time is like we were saying, hey, there's a difference between saying this is factually true and this is what should happen. And then Azzy's argument is like, well, this is what's factually true.
No, that's not my argument.
So
First,
that's
that's cute.
exactly what you
That's
said.
cute. That's not saying no. I'm saying talking about no, trying to make the distinction between what should and what is has no bearing on the current issue. Because she's not saying I should get off.
What's the point of having this conversation if we don't try to make prescriptive claims?
I'm not saying don't. I'm saying you can do whatever you want. Talk. You can smoke all the weed you want. You could do whatever you want. Talk.
Wait. Don't say that he's in the wrong place. First and foremost, and then the next part would be that like with Azzy, it's like I just feel like if he was a woman, he had blonde hair and he had blue eyes and he was white. You guys wouldn't be treating him like this. I'm just
Azzy, real quick.
Come down on him if he was a blonde.
I have noticed a certain dynamic
that he's saying, and if he's just gonna come on here every time we try to make a prescriptive have a prescriptive discussion about something, and he's just gonna say but this is the reality. We're gonna go nowhere. And this is what he did.
Okay, so Azzy, help me. Okay, Azzy, help me. What are her needs, expectations, and desires if she's arrested? Because she is. What are her needs, expectations, and desires? In your opinion?
In terms of after, what are you talking about?
She got arrested.
Her needs, I don't care about her needs. Her expectations is that she's going to get off. Her desires is that don't arrest me. You know what's funny? Because after all this should talk, you know what she said after she got arrested? Boo-hoo. I didn't know what I was doing. I was caught in the lie of invading after taking her private jet to the riot.
Sure. So then
I don't understand why needs all this matters.
What are practices that can prioritize those potential needs, benefits, and desires that she wants? What are some practices that can prioritize those things?
The justice system and how in the court, the courts, the justice system, what happens afterwards?
How would it prioritize those things
within the trial? Why are we walking through this? Explain.
No, but I'm trying to understand how you feel these practices lead to the prioritization of those things, because I think that's where we're getting lost.
They'll treat her right because she's white. That's fine.
Why?
We understand.
Why would they treat her white because she's right?
Because we're in America. I said this before. We're in America. America's main purpose is original purpose was to uphold the sovereignty of white Americans.
So you're saying because she is white, her expectations, needs, and desires would be prioritized.
I'm not saying they will be, because there's plenty of instances where they won't be, especially if you're low income.
So then do you understand that prioritization doesn't mean that you're always going to be first in the queue, right?
Well, I can use that same argument with saying, hey, she won't, because she's white, she's not immune to going to jail, which is what I'm saying.
Well, Azzy, even though you are strongly holding that it doesn't matter whether she's saying I should be or I ought to be, I do still think it matters because even though she is wrong, it's still very dangerous when many people think the exact same way as her. Because then we get the
Yeah,
disaster at Capitol Hill.
Not.
I do
it
I think
is.
that's the point
It's
that
a
Joe was
fallacy.
trying to get at.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
the point right there. Like in
Yeah.
the sense that Joe is talking about like we create these behaviors in society, like it's these actions that then perpetuate things like white privilege, right? And like these actions that help like create whiteness. And then Lyra kind of connected that by saying like it's an issue where you have so many people who may think this. These people may end up getting into systems. These people may end up becoming like your prosecutors or yada yada. They recreate those forms of white privilege. So that's a really important point. Even though like she's an individual may not necessarily like she may she's like, oh well, I'm gonna get off and it should be this way. That's what creates these forms of systems is you don't want people to start thinking like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
I
that's what's the
don't. But
problem.
people,
there was
I
a
don't. We can agree on that.
there was a lawyer. If I'm remembering this correctly, I believe this happened in New York. This a few years back during the Trump administration, and he was harassing, and this guy got into like a few situations that ended up like being like making national news, right? So, but if I'm remembering things correctly, and someone can let me know if I'm wrong, but there was this lawyer in New York, and he was within this like a like a food court type thing, and there were people, either employees of the food court or just like other customers who were speaking Spanish in front of him. He fucking freaked out on them, like freaked out.
I remember this.
And then he gets like they call the police on him, right? And they like arrest him. And he yells, "He's like, you're treating me like a black person."
I remember that. It was on Twitter.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
Yeah,
big.
that was in the airport.
Was
And
it
then the
airport?
thing is
Airport
too,
food court?
yeah. And then the
Yeah,
thing
it was
is
an
too,
airport.
that gets codified into law. Like in Alabama, there's a law. I want to say it's like HB 52 or something like that, where if you get pulled over and the officer has reasonable suspicion that you are illegally living in the United States, when they detain you, they can arrest you and call ICE on you, right? So one of your expectations is that when you get pulled over, you're not going to be questioned if you speak another language to the person next to you,
Some
like,
fucked
hey,
up shit.
yeah, can like
How do you tell someone
exactly.
doesn't live in the country just by like you just look like you're not from here?
Right,
Like-
but when you think, but when you go next level deeper, right? Like, who would you think that would affect? Like, where are people like immigrating into this country in such a way that's
You
getting
know,
villainized?
imagine
So-
being American and having that system. You know, like, being like
Exactly.
you don't look like you're from the land here. Like,
Yeah, so like I shouldn't have, like, we have an expectation that if we speak a foreign language and let's say my daughter is like in the passenger seat next to me, I turn over to my daughter, speak whatever language, we'll say Spanish. I want to have the expectation that I'm not going to get pulled out of my vehicle from some bullshit. But obviously in some other countries, people discriminate based on the language that you speak. If it's not English, like, and we do this in a very passive way, right? Like, we have an expectation where if we go to a certain store, that the person is going to speak English in front of you. That's an example of these privileges and well, whiteness and perpetuates the privilege that we're talking about. You know, like, it's a problem. And then the question is, like, how do we reduce these practices, right? Like, how do we and that's the big thing, so we don't get people who acknowledge that this privilege exists and it keeps producing itself. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, and I
Yeah.
agree. I think personally for me, especially thanks for Prime for bringing up that example. 'Cause I actually remember watching that. I was just shocked. Understanding that not only an individual is saying that, but the connotation of how you're treated by an officer or what things go into as to being black, me morally is just reprehensible. Just knowing that's as is, but him just saying that, right, that you're treating me like I think he said the N-word or something like that. And it makes me really think, like, not only are they affirming something that happens, but it's kind of sad truth. It's like really sad, and it makes me kind of angry to know that that's the connotation individuals give to black people, right? And I think what needs to be understood is yes, we can affirm this is as is, but how do we go about changing what seems like to me a social norm, or something that is looked at as a social norm in certain people's eyes, and trying to change this while also not trying to minimize how this is actually happening to Black people within the criminal justice system. An extension of that would be, i.e., like law enforcement.
I definitely just have like a dark sense of humor or something, because it's like with something like George Floyd and seeing that footage like that, I'm like, that's sad. But whenever I see those things, if there's like a person who's like, you're treating me like a Black person, it's almost like an SNL skit. Like the first reaction I get is like laughter of like, oh my fucking god, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then afterwards I'll think about it and be like, it's kind of fucked. But like, it's never, my actions never like intense sadness or something. It's just like, this would be fucking ridiculous, and I just laugh. It's almost like it is humorous to me.
I was gonna, yeah. I was also gonna say, I kind of I kind of have a dark sense of humor in that sense as well. Like, compared to the Contra, I actually prefer it rather than people like hide it, like secretly know that they have this privilege and just hide it. I actually kind of find it kind of comforting that like these people are so open about it, like in front of cameras, so that other people of color and like white people who may be disenfranchised from it, not disenfranchised but disillusioned from it, could see and maybe be convinced finally. But yeah, especially for George Floyd, like the length of these people that white people come to deny it, like when they said like George Floyd didn't actually die from being suffocated from the nails, like he overdosed, like I found that shit hilarious. I was like, really? They caught these niggas in 4K and you're still gonna say this man died from fucking drugs? Yeah.
No, and like no, I see what you're saying. You know what it is? It's like, for like to what Prime brought up though, like how that video played out. That guy was using it as like a straight defense. They were fighting that guy in the airport, trying to get him controlled. Like they were literally trying to get that guy apprehended, and he was saying that like it was like some defense, like in front of all these people in the airport. And like you know, just I don't know, it seems like just reprehensible to me that you know, that's the first thing you go to when you're fighting police officers, you're hitting police officers, they're trying to apprehend you in a big ass airport, and that's where you're shouting at them. And he used it, and I'm pretty sure he said like I'm pretty sure he said like the N-word, like you're treating me like the N-word and stuff like that. And I was just like what? Like,
stepped up. He's like, you know, I'm a true Marley, and you're treating me like an alien.
I hate you for that one. And I knew they were.
I hate the people of Attack.
They're actually Nazis, bro. They're actually Nazis.
They are.
That's
They are.
totally
They
different.
left the season. They cut the season off. I hate them.
Just read the manga. Don't be a loser.
No,
Just
shut
read
up.
the manga.
Shut no. All people. Those are
Literally.
terrible.
I didn't watch the last season though. So
Is Attack on
To
Titan?
bring it back to a serious point,
Anime's over halfway through.
Yeah,
part one.
listen, we still have the black Eldian, so that's fine with me. Okay,
He's not Eldian.
God
He's not
loves
Eldian.
black
He's not Eldian.
people. God loves people, and he made exclusively to the man's words. God loved people, and he made me. He made
I'm
me.
actually upset. Wait, Paul, are you
So-
about to say he's not Eldian? They just
He's
not
not
Eldian.
Eldian.
Black.
No,
He's not even Marlene. He's not even Marlene. He's just
So
a random.
basically, I'll give you the context. So basically, that Owen, I can't pronounce his name, but basically, he's from a different country, and like he was just a part of Zeke's crew. But he is one of the volunteers, and I think he's considered like a
Hold on,
whatever
are-
Eldian.
Are you guys
Oh,
saying
no,
that
they're like-
he's not
they're
part of the Marleyan country just because his country of origin is from somewhere else?
No, I'm talking about his.
Oh
I'm talking
my
about-
goodness!
He got
What's
taken
wrong
over.
with you
All right,
guys?
sorry.
This is why I'm saying.
Chad is getting really mad.
This is
Oh
why I
my
want to
God.
bring it
Oh,
back
yeah.
to Jenna Ryan and
Oh,
to
man.
Joe's
No.
question of making things better for Black Americans. You know how you make things better for Black Americans? It won't affect the way police officers treat Black Americans, but it will change the mindset of white people get off all the time. Just arrest this woman. Make her do the time, and it will change the mindset. So this is
Why?
why I'm saying it doesn't really matter whether we try to differentiate between art and what, because the only reason we're talking about art is because what is a factor. It stems from it is.
But
It's
wait,
because
I
I'm
think-
white.
But wait, I think
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't
not how
matter.
it
you're
works.
missing the big point here.
That's not how it works.
You're
That's
missing
exactly
the big
how
point.
it works.
No,
if
Ozzy,
it didn't exist, that if if it didn't exist, the idea of white privilege, people would not be saying I ought not to go to prison because I'm white. And she really truly doesn't even believe it, because when the fact of the matter is, when she got arrested and the charges came up and she now has to face the reality, oh snap, I might do jail time. She's now backtracking on her statement and saying, I'm so sorry. I caught into the lie of the Capitol's wrong, and now she's backtracking. So she really doesn't.
Agreed.
She's
You
only
agreed,
using it.
however.
It's exactly why it's important, because the whole point behind seeing a woman like that and then locking her up is that we're making an example out of her, correct? So it does matter that she's like affirming. She's like, oh, I should be treated this way. I should be let off because I'm white. And then we go ahead and arrest her. That is important because the rest of the world sees that. The rest of America sees that. And they see, maybe I shouldn't go around acting like I have right privilege. Just at least not that openly.
So at best is an arrest, and I only think she was arrested. But
it's an arrest.
So she got arrested.
She's been arrested and charged,
but then bailed, I guess, because that's why she's tweeting. But after that, I'm talking about a conviction. Yeah. She's talking about a conviction. She's like, I'm not going to see jail time because of my skin. So that's the important part. She gets that white people get arrested, but jail time. She's seen the news like we've all seen the news.
She paid bail,
and she knows. And she knows.
Okay,
that
cool. So, do black never fuck Jesus Christ. I don't even know if I want to engage in this
black people pay bail, Joe.
Do black people pay bail?
Yes. My shit
is
How
just
do you
know that?
What do you mean? Joe,
listen, Azzy, frustration. I want to make this as incredibly clear as possible, because sometimes you frustrate me, and I'm going to say this out of love.
Black people don't pay bail. There's no.
Sometimes no. Let me fucking finish. Sometimes you say something that I think you just stumble upon the right take on something, or a take that is. Let me fucking finish. You stumble upon a take that might sound correct. And then as you continue talking, you start backpedaling in real time. Then we push back, and then it becomes this circle jerk of what the fuck do you really mean, Azzy? So I'm going to try this again on you, because I guess it wasn't very clear. What are certain practices that produce privileges that would make a woman say the things that she said?
Joe, stop asking the same question over and over. I already answered it.
Joe
already answered it. The criminal justice system, the way we treat white people in the criminal justice. No.
So easy to say
this. This is easy to understand. I already answered it. The way we treat white people in America, the original foundation of America, the criminal justice system as it stands. What else do you want, Joe? What else do you want?
What are the practices, not the structures, but the practices that lead
based on
to
the numbers,
privilege?
Based on the numbers, white people don't go to jail as much as African Americans. We're faced with the same crimes and.
So what's the practice that leads to that thing?
I'm not saying the practice. I'm not advocating for the practice. I'm not saying the practice is right or is right. Why are you asking me?
I believe
He's making it seem like I don't understand these things. These are very simple. We're all black here, right?
Wait, but as
sorry, go ahead. Listen, I think what Joe is trying to lead you to I guess acknowledge is that it's not enough that that's okay. You said before that, well, she's wrong, so it doesn't really matter what exactly she meant, because logically speaking and looking at the big picture, she's wrong. People like her do go to jail all the time. But what Joe is trying to lead you to is that although there are exceptions where people like her do go to jail, there are situations where, black people can pay bail too. We give white people bail, we give black people bail. There are different factors, the systemic racism in place that makes it harder for black and brown people to jump over those hurdles that white people can easily. I think that's what Joe is trying to lead you through step by step.
Yeah, but that's
not enough that both black and white people get bail, because black and white people don't have enough resources to access the advantage of paying bail.
Go ahead, Mark.
From what Azzy is saying, I think he agrees with all that. It's just the way
I agree with all that.
It's really fucking stupid. So Joe, everybody here says it and says these stuff in generalities. So for example, somebody here will say man, white people never get caught in crimes. Now or much like that. Now when they say that, do they literally mean that no white person ever goes to jail for a crime? No, what they generally speak, because we often talk in like generalities or slang and stuff like that. What we generally mean is that compared to other people of color and other minorities, white people get off of crimes or don't get as much time as sentences significantly more than other minorities. We don't
Well, that's
literally
the
mean,
That's
yeah,
the
we don't.
problem. When we make generalities like that, then you have people who will truly believe the generalities are fact, that they're true. You'll
No,
have
those are
individuals
bad.
who believe
I
that.
disagree.
Therefore,
Those
you
are
get
bad
people
faith
like Jenna
actors.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Wait, no,
Hold on.
no, Jenna
When
Ryan. Go ahead,
Well,
Taco.
so what I was gonna say, the problem is, right, when we're talking about like,
Real
oh
off
well,
on your.
she played,
Just
wait,
mute
You popped
yourself
off
on
and
the
mute yourself
program
and
and then
screen.
continue.
oh my bad. So the problem is when you talk about like we bring up the fact that, oh, this white woman paid bail, and like your first reaction is, well, black people pay bail too. The implicit like thing that you're saying when you say that, even though you're just trying to make a descriptive statement, is that there is no difference between a white person paying bail and a black person paying bail in the United States. That even if you don't know it, you're implying that when you say that. And what happens is, like, there's a lot of things that go into paying bail. Like this lady flew to I finished watching the thing. She actually flew to the Capitol on her private jet. She's not gonna have trouble paying bail. But on average, an African American who's gonna be poorer and have less wealth than a white American is going to have more trouble paying bail. And that doesn't help that on average, black people also get higher bails than white people, which that doesn't make any sense. But like you're like almost implying that like the problem is not a problem when we're like talking about it, and then you make a statement saying, well, this is reality.
So like here's an example of what I'm trying to talk about here, right? So one expectation that you have is that your teacher is going to say your name correctly and is going to spend the time and dedicate the energy to learn your name correctly. It's very true for African students specifically, and especially African students who have names like Aomi, like Nami, where the teacher will just make a just generalization of a name that they cannot pronounce, instead of when the student multiple times will clarify, this is my name, this is my name, this is my name, and they'll be always, and every single time, like, actually, I'm just gonna call you Chad in my roster, or I'll just give you a nickname so it's easier for me instead of dedicating energy. That is a practice that produces white privilege, because one of the benefits or expectations that a student has is that they expect them as in the teacher, for their name to be pronounced properly and not to be correct the student multiple times. Are there names that white people can have that can be like sort of misinterpreted, like Aaron? The entire bit of Key and Peele is the acknowledgement that there is a practice in society that produces white privilege, specifically the privilege of teachers pronouncing white names properly.
Yeah. And like Azzy, like for the generalities point, like we kind of have to, like, the people that like take it literally. That's why I called bad faith actors. Like we make these type of generalities or prescriptions for society all the time. For example, if you were to say like Black Americans in America are uneducated compared to other minority groups. Now that statement, there's data to back it up, but it's not like true across the board. You wouldn't say, actually, that's not true. I know this one black girl. She was very smart. She went to Harvard. Like, obviously, we're talking in generalities there. Like, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, but the normal person is not going out
No,
doing
I
the
disagree.
research that you guys are.
The normal person can look into that, and the normal person knows if they're educated on the data. The normal person can infer
The
that they're
normal
talking.
person is not doing the research that
No,
we're
you don't.
doing.
Actually, I'll take that back. You don't even have to do the research. That's general knowledge, actually.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I know.
People
I
truly believe white people don't go to jail.
Do you think the average American believes that black people in America are just as educated as white people in America?
What, black women are the most educated people in America.
What? Wait, are you talking? Wait, and like what study? Total per capita? What are you talking about?
I don't know if that's true, but I'm really scared to say that it's not true.
Black women are the most educated.
Okay, I'll even know. Okay, I took the bait. That was totally my fault. I took the bait. Okay, black women.
You dug your own hole.
That black people in general are undereducated compared to white people. That's just a fact. Like, you could say black women. I don't even know if that's true, but black people in general are educated, and I would assume that most of society, even if you're fucking racist, would
Yeah,
say
but
that
that's
hey,
there's
black
a
people
lot
are
going into that as well. You're leaving out a bunch of factors by just saying that statement. You
Yes,
gotta
because we can't cite like a
Azzy, yes, there's
1,000-page Cato study. Like obviously we have to.
so there's no point in bringing it up because
No,
yes, there
we
is,
can't
because
get
we have
into
to
all
highlight
of
the
that.
I was on a panel yesterday where a Twitch streamer, a fellow Twitch streamer, Rob Noor, gaslit me for an hour, decreeing that Asian Americans are on the top of the social hegemony in the United States, and he insisted that he included Asian women, he included Asian men. He kept insisting that educationally,
Well, he was an
economically,
idiot.
he's an idiot. Why is he an idiot?
Because he's wrong.
He came with multiple studies and multiple evidence to refute his claim. How is he an idiot?
Well, number one, who paid for the studies? Where did he get the studies from? Did he just do a regular Google search, or did he go to an academic source
So
for all his research?
how do you convince Rob Noor that actually white Americans are on top of the social hegemony?
You could just say that the majority of America, you could speak to just basic facts, basic common sense. The majority of America is white.
That's
simple.
Okay, and
Yeah, okay, and
that would be his response.
I really want to try to glue some of the pieces together here. Also, I saw a little bit of a disconnect in the chat over the analogy that Joe Lewis used a little bit about names in the school. Please understand that when although that analogy may have seemed very random, Joe is using that analogy to try to make that he was trying to make clear that there's a certain expectation that is set up in America, and that expectation is in place because of systemic racism and because of a lot of other factors. But the expectation that if you have an anglicized name, your name will be spoken correctly. That is an expectation. Now, although it may seem very minor, that's something that we all know. If a teacher will probably be able to say Rachel, they'll probably be able to say Elizabeth. But if someone with the name Ayobade comes by, they're not going to be able to say it right. It may have seemed random, but he's saying that because we have certain expectations when it comes to how America treats people based off of certain factors. Now, picking up the pieces with what Joe Lewis said about with Rob Noor, because I was there for that shit show yesterday, and about how he kept saying, well, clearly systemic racism doesn't exist because Asians are at the top of everything. And the reason why that take is dumb is because although minorities and Black and brown people are able to succeed, that does not erase the fact that there were many factors of systemic racism that they had to get through to get to that point. There were certain expectations that are set for white people that are not set for POC people, and we can't just ignore that because there are special cases where people do succeed. And I think that's what we're trying to pick up.
But the only reason I understand Rob Noor's point, because I don't want to do this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Asian Americans, especially Japanese Americans, were don't do it. All right, I won't do it. Okay, because Prime, you know where I'm going with this, right?
No, I already know what you're gonna say, and I just.
All right, so then you know what I'm gonna say. So then I understand the sentiment, but the fact that he said that they're on top of the social hegemony makes no sense because there's no study. I mean, there's no
there's definitely racism towards Asians.
That doesn't really matter.
I wasn't gonna say racism. I'm talking about
systemic racism that are in place. It doesn't matter if they're on top of not, because that doesn't change the fact that systemic racism is in place, and that although POC may or may not succeed or may not be at the top, there are way more obstacles set in place before them. Just because some of them succeed, that doesn't erase all the obstacles that they had to get there, and that's what we're trying to attack.
Yeah. So like as one example, right? And
this has nothing to do with Jenna.
Are you ready? You ready?
Sorry.
No, like.
Okay, go ahead. Finish what you're saying, Joe.
Yeah,
Then
so
I'll move on.
Yeah, as one example that Rob gave is that Asian Americans have lower incarceration rates than white Americans, Latin Americans, and Black Americans. And then he asked me, if systemic racism exists and white privilege and whiteness exists, why are Asian Americans at the bottom of incarceration rates?
Maybe you don't. What?
You told me hard body, and again, this statistically checked out that Asian Americans are the lowest in all the racial demographics in terms of incarceration rates. And then he said, well, if systemic racism is real, then why are Asian Americans at the lowest of incarceration rates?
I can
It's like,
answer
well,
part of
what?
that question. So
No.
I can answer part of that question. There is something that we have to acknowledge, right? In our history, Black people, lineage to Africans, right, were the only groups in stabilization of this country that were not immigrants, right? We were not immigrants. We were taken over here. Most people that are of Asian descent were immigrants. Most people that were of other races and other cultures outside of Africa back then were immigrants, right? Even in comparison, I've had people try to say to me, what about back then? Irish people were slaves. And then I correct them and I'm like, no, Irish people were not slaves. They were indentured servants. They were still given contracts. Yes, they were treated harshly, right? They were still treated in horrible conditions, right? But to compare that to chattel slavery, where individuals were seen as property, right? Where Irish people were not seen as property, right? They could still work out their contract. They could still work on the railroads and certain things like that. It's just not comparable. And going further into the legislation and laws that were presented in our country were not only tiered to the success of Anglo-Saxons at the time, because obviously white is arbitrary, right? Back then, what was white back then was not considered what's white now, right? Not only was they tiered to actually for Anglo-Saxon to be advantageous in many sectors, criminal justice and all those other things, but specifically there was legislation to actually be to the detriment of specifically Africans, right? And not towards any other group of people, and by large. And as you look down the line to history, this explains why the architects, right, of our criminal justice system, the architects of many legislation, and then, as you know, legislation and institutions always dabbles hand in hand with the sociological environment, right, or the society you live in. They go hand in hand. This is why you may explain why, to Rob, we may see Asian Americans have the least amount of incarceration rates, because historically Asian Americans haven't been at the punitive juggle of many legislation and the architecture of the criminal justice system, and how our prisons were actually even built. So I think that will be a better answer to that, right? To go down the history of in comparison.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Let's
I love the history lesson, but
Polar,
Polar,
I'll give you the last word. Then we got to move on.
Sure. So last part on this, one, immigration generally, there's a really interesting trend that comes with immigration and crime, is that first generation immigrants tend to like commit a lot less crime than like native born individuals. And then as their like children and their children become more like, I guess you'd say, integrated into society, their crime rates just tend to flat out with everyone else.
Yep,
So
correct. I've seen that study.
Yeah. Yep. So if you want to compare it to another, like if you want to compare it to a group from like Africa, Nigerians, I think, actually make the most, the actual ethnic group that make the most money in comparison to race, I think. So like there's a perfect example of like, it's not really just like the fact that, well, you're not really arguing against a race realist, but like for someone like Rob, the point that CGI is making is really, really, really important, is that it's specific African Americans that have been at like the downfall of like policy results. I think you can even compare, I think Joe was the one who mentioned this, but if you compare like groups that descended from Chinese Americans from like the 1800s, I think their reality is very different than like the children of immigrants of like last gen, like people who immigrated over. So it's really interesting the way that we have a selection bias when it comes to immigrants. And like Rob is Rob, so I mean I wouldn't expect that much from him.
Yeah, so just to be clear, like, the reason I brought this up is because when we're talking about whiteness and then we're talking about white privilege, something that I'm getting very, very pilled on is making sure that we're as specific as possible when we advocate for certain changes and stuff like that. Because the minute we start generalizing, we start like creating these holes that are very easy to debunk. And then what happens is when we argue with these things in the public space and we just sort of like generalize about certain things, then it leads to the very like individuals where we need to get them on their side to acknowledge that this thing exists, and they just rejected the thing exists in the first place.
Let's go to topic 3. Not all to say about all this, but all right, let's go to topic 3. Maryland police recently arrested a 5-year-old black boy who wasn't in school. Body camera footage shows the arresting police officer severely berating the child with the aid of another staff member. What do you think of this scene? What does it say about how the youngest of black children are treated by law enforcement? And does the fact that the cop was black mean that this is not racially motivated? And so for my audience members, I'll put the link to this video as well. If you haven't seen it already, it's been going around for a while. It was just like a little black boy, 5 years old, who for whatever reason was not in school. Cop got a hold of the kid and is telling him, you know, like, well, you need to be in school, and then starts like he like I think he puts cuffs on him. He throws him in the back of the squad car, and then once they get to the, I guess, the station, they continue berating this kid, right? It's like, oh yeah, you basically making him feel like kid's gonna grow up to be a criminal. It's really rough. So it's not a very long video that I put in there, but just be aware of that. All right, so I want to hear what you all think of that. Start with Polar.
You said me?
Yeah, Polar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't hear the second part of that. I think it's really interesting. There's also some really interesting data that looks at people just see black kids as much older than they are. So I wonder if that's played into it. Like, if this police officer, even though they were black, saw like this 5-year-old kid is maybe a couple years older, which doesn't make a difference. Like, wow, this person looks like an 8-year-old. We should obviously like beat the shit out of them. No, like that shouldn't make a difference. And I'm not saying that police officer did. I also think it's really interesting to see that, like, whenever we look at like classes or groups in society, it's not very strict, right? So we all have our Jesse Lee Petersons. We all have our like counter feminist groups of like the 80s. It's really interesting to see the way that society will socialize people into working against the groups that they're a part of. And I think this is a perfect example of this. It's really important to recognize that just because you are a part of a marginalized group doesn't mean that you're going to understand or have like and sympathize with the rest of that group. And I think it's a much more interesting point to delve at, is that like, this is a black cop, and they did this. So like it's pretty yikes, but it's a very like common reality. Things aren't as clear cut as they seem.
Joe Lewis.
Yeah, torturing children over misconduct doesn't solve the pathology of violence and trauma. The lawsuit that came up is justified. There's a lot of precedent of what should have happened. Also, too, just so we understand the case, like, just was incredibly clear on this. Like, those officers should have lost their jobs. They openly advocated for the violence of a 5-year-old child, and openly did it on camera, whether it be in the classroom or even within the room in earsight of the mother. The exchange of this lasted multiple hours, and it's completely disgusting and unacceptable. Black people can participate in anti-black behavior no different than white Americans, and those officers did that. It's very unfortunate they still have their jobs, despite the fact across many other instances across the United States, officers who participated in this exact same misconduct lost their jobs and also faced lawsuits. So this is really disgusting to me.
Lyra.
When I watched this video today, I was very pissed off, and I was very angry, and I was heartbroken. And I really like the way that Polar phrased it, that black children are viewed as much older than they really are. Because everyone who watched that video and said, yeah, that kid was throwing a tantrum, maybe he should learn some discipline. He's fucking 5. He's literally a baby. You watch that video, he's crying the entire time, falling out, because he's 5. Why do you think a 5-year-old needs to be scared straight by getting put on handcuffs, having his hands tied behind his back, and having police officers scream in his face? He's a child. Why does a 5-year-old need that? He's a baby. There is a racial element to this, even though as Joe said, black people can participate in anti-blackness all the time, and they do all the time. Like, a lot of the issues behind police brutality is another thing. Isn't just racism, but an overexertion of power as a result of the racial differences between how people are treated and how different people of color are viewed by the justice system. And it's definitely racially charged, because the only reason why anyone would look at this video and say, yeah, maybe he does need to learn some discipline, is because somewhere in there you are programmed to think that he needs to be taught this early so that he does not get shot in the street by a police officer in the future. Why does a 5-year-old, why is it necessary that a 5-year-old has to be put on handcuffs for this? Why does a 5-year-old need this type of discipline? He's way too young to be treated this way. It's racially charged because you only look at this video and say, hey, it's allowed because he's Black. I strongly doubt, especially considering that the police officer is a Black man, I strongly doubt they would have treated a white child the same way, because they definitely would have lost their jobs. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. All right, Adam.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up that they put handcuffs on a little kid. I don't know. I kind of think that like I don't know. I kind of don't agree with this. Like people say, like okay, I guess the difference is people who are saying the statements that like they're like and using them as a way to say that what they did to the kid was okay is like dumb. Like you shouldn't talk around kids like that. Especially as police officers, you're supposed to be like upstanding citizens, and you can't speak about a kid that way. And then and like putting handcuffs on the kid, that seems like a bit much. It didn't look like he needed handcuffs. He was just like throwing a tantrum or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know. That kid was bad. He fucking should have acted right. I didn't act like that at 5. If I had kids that acted like that at 5, I would be severely disappointed in my parents. Yeah, like there's definitely like some like really like shitty treatment and like treating kids like criminals when they're like too young to like you're basically like what is it called, like the like affirming like what you want to be true already. I don't there's like a word for it, but self-fulfilling prophecy kind of. Yeah, like you're kind of like setting this kid up to like believe that he's gonna think himself as a criminal for the rest of his life, and that's like really really fucked up, and like we should probably fight against that.
Are you serious? The kid is a bad kid?
I mean, that's what he seems like it, dude. He's not in school. He's like throwing a tantrum. I would be very disappointed in my parents saying, I don't know. I didn't throw tantrums.
He's 5 years old. He's 5 years old.
Literally
He's 5 years old. That's
Is he a good kid?
I expect way too much out of 5-year-olds, but like,
what do you expect out of a 5-year-old? He's 5.
Okay, let's stop.
Yeah, come on, son. Like, all right,
Okay.
man. So is he a good kid? Is he a good kid?
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think he's a good kid?
Oh wow.
It doesn't matter. He's 5 years
man.
old.
Holy shit.
It doesn't.
It
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is opening statement. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna escalate quickly. I guarantee you. Wiggle.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, I definitely feel some type of way because, like, when I was a kid, I would get in trouble all the time, and then I'd see like how the other kids were treated and how they got out of it, and it would be very different. For me, it'd be longer meetings, more mediation, trying to push me into things where you talk to like a school therapist or something.
Special education.
For the other kids, nah. Like for the other kids, it would be like, oh, you know, it's just a one and done, or they get in trouble and they'd have to deal with it a little bit and they get off. And like when their parents called the school, like the response was different than if my parents called the school on my behalf. And you'd see like different punishments, like for me and these other, and that was ingrained early on, that the stakes are different. I think in this case, like, it's really fucked up. They were saying, I mean, how do you learn that behavior at 5 when the kid's like right there? They're saying that's why people need to beat their kids. And it's like, bro, like, you're a police officer. You can't be saying that shit on the clock. You can't be saying that right around like kids. And then like when there was an officer who was just upset that the kid was like crying and started screaming at the kid in the face against the wall because they were irritated, and they're like, ah! And like, oh my god, that was annoying. But at the end of the day, I mean, when we're talking about this, that's not a good kid. The problem is that the kid doesn't deserve to be treated that way for being bad. But to say that it was a good kid, come the fuck on. You just don't deserve to be treated that way. But you can still acknowledge it and be like, the actions, the kid, like they said in the video, he like broke a computer or something. That's why he got in trouble. It's just the idea of like the penalty for doing that at the age of 5 should be a lot less, and that's what we should be discussing.
Oh boy. Go ahead, CGI.
Yeah, so I agree with what Joe and Lyra was saying. The reason why I said it doesn't matter is because me recognizing he's a bad kid is not the subject of conversation. The subject of conversation is what utility it brings for individuals to react the way they did because they deemed that this individual or this kid was a quote unquote bad kid. I don't care if he's a bad or good kid in this context because I'm worried about what the reaction was to them deeming he was a good or bad kid, right? So I can say he's a bad kid, that's fine. It doesn't add any utility to the conversation. The second thing here is that I actually, fortunately, when you brought this topic up, I actually watched extended video that I don't think everyone here watched, where they actually showed that the people that work there, they showed all the video on body cam what the employees were saying. The employees were actually going on for maybe 40 to an hour talking about how they would beat this kid, how if this was their kid, they would beat him. And actually, in one of the videos, the law enforcement officer gives he was handcuffed twice. They gave the handcuffs to an employee at the school and allowed them to also place it on the kid themselves, like an individual civilian. And they just kept talking about how they would beat the kid and all this stuff in front of the kid. This is just horrible. This is trauma for the kid. He's 5 years old. Most 5-year-olds are in kindergarten. Some are in their last year of pre-K. I just don't see any excuse for this behavior. And I don't see any utility of me just explicitly saying he's good or bad, because I am worried about how someone reacts to them deeming after the fact that this child is good or bad. So I think that's what the real conversation is, right?
Okay, Marks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's 5-year-old. He was fucking annoying. All right, all 5-year-olds are annoying. Doesn't matter. The problem is that he's a 5-year-old. You don't hold him like morally accountable. I don't care if he's like good or bad. It's just you don't treat him that way. Obviously, those officers should be held to account. That's not how you treat a kid. This is also an argument to where officers have too much weight on their hand. This could also be an argument that like officers maybe shouldn't have to deal with that stuff. Maybe you should call in more social workers, defund the police, all that shit. But yeah, it's just a terrible situation. Hey, I'm gonna say this: if you're an annoying ass kid, most of the time you probably have annoying ass parents as well. So yeah.
Okay, sure. Next, Azzy.
Yeah, I don't really care about the conduct of the child. I just feel that I think we're over talking we're missing the black dynamics, especially within certain schools. Like, this is normal for a lot of black dynamics. But I do not agree with when that cop had no right to get in that kid's face and start yelling at the top of her lungs just because she's annoyed. That just shows bad parenting and bad child management. What the cop was saying, the male cop didn't really. Male cop, yeah, he did a pretty egregious things, but the mom was in the room at the end of the day. So when we saw in the clip, when he put on the cuffs, the mom was in the room. So the mom didn't say don't. Matter of fact, the mom said, "Do you want to end up like your uncle in jail?" So that moment right there was just black dynamics. We're trying to get our kid probably at a very young age, probably too early of an age, 5. He may not even remember it, but he's trying to teach the kid, hey, why are you running away from school? Why are you doing all these bad things? They're trying to impact a lesson of choices. The way they went about it, I think is totally wrong, but I don't think the cops should lose their jobs. I don't think they should be demonized this way. Maybe the female cop, because the female cop was over the top. I feel the female cop was over the top because she had no right. Because that's abuse what she did.
Okay, all right. So I'll give my opinion here, and then we'll jump into this. Like holy shit! Like I'm like disappointed with what I'm hearing. Like a whole lot. I think. First of all, should the kid have been arrested for what he did? Absolutely not. Why would you arrest a child? He's a kid. Kids act out all the time. This is the thing that kids do. We understand this, right? This is the thing kids do. Why involve the carceral state for a fucking 5-year-old, right? Yes, a kid has a tantrum. They break stuff. How many of your kids, right? How many kids of yours have like ended up in motherfucking jail? Because kid's not even 10, not that it should matter, but kid's not even 10 and he has handcuffs on him, right? Because he needed that, right? Because this was a 6 foot whatever guy, right? He can't handle a child. This is the same thing, right? Excusing this, even granting this an inch of room, right, is too much, right? Like any excuse for these people, up and down, this is wrong. Arresting him is wrong. Berating him is wrong. Telling this kid he's a bad kid. He's fucking 5, and you don't even know what this kid's dealing with at home. Sometimes they act out because they're dealing with abuse at home. That's a possibility. That's a possibility right there. We see that all the time from children. They deal with abuse at home and then they act out in school, right? So and then again, and not even might be the case. He just might be a rambunctious kid. Just a kid who got a little too hyperactive and he broke a computer. Who the fuck cares, right? He ran away. You take him back to school. You talk to the kid. Hey, don't do that again, right? You give him a little pep talk. Let him know what's going on. But to arrest him. He is not a criminal, but if you treat him like a criminal, if you tell him he's a bad kid, right? If you tell him that, then he will become that person, right? He will listen to you. He will internalize these messages, and that's exactly what he'll become. We understand the school to prison pipeline here. I hope we do here, right? And that like the more often times you have contact with the police, the more likely that you will end up in jail as an adult. So let's not start this. Let's not feed into this. Right? And yes, this is fucking racist. Up and down. Up and down this is racist. Because if that was a white child, this shit would have never happened. It would have never fucking happened.
Never.
Holy shit. Up into the panel.
Yeah, so that's even why when I talk about like whiteness and like privilege, right? One of the things that is getting missed here, right, is that they did not contact his parent until the officers returned the child to the school. And in every other situation, the common procedure in most school districts is that you notify the parent immediately. Even in the conversation and the language that the representatives of the school had, it was very clear that there was a protocol that was missed. Because why would to what as you mentioned, right? So like the mother said some certain things that may have suggested that she was facilitating like complicit with the behavior, which we can totally go that route. However, she's also the same individual who opened the lawsuit on the Montgomery Police Department. So there's two things going on here, right? And we have to understand that when you're in a situation like that, where people of power are doing something to your child, you could in fact feel powerless to acknowledge that what's happening there is not okay. And instead of pushing back to perpetuate this, I just want this to stop. And that's a very important thing that we have to remember here.
Yeah, and I actually agree with everything Prime was saying. I think it's a big problem where if anyone is making an excuse for any of this behavior, not just by the officers, but also the school officials. If you guys ever want to see the full video, I can DM it to you. And I think it adds more context to this. Even these school officials were acting in the same way the officers were acting. They were taking on full rants about how if this was their child, they would beat this child. They were going on full rants about what they would do to this child. And even the cop gave the handcuffs to a civilian and let her literally just handcuff the kid to a chair, like for a few minutes. And it's just insane to me that any of this behavior, if it is talked about or used as defense, is insane. I just don't see how a 5-year-old, right? Going to what Prime saying, you treat a 5-year-old like they're criminal. You tell them all these things. Don't be surprised that manifests in the future, right? Now, I had this conversation with other people where things of operant conditioning, right? This is what they talk about in psychology when it comes to positive, negative reinforcement, extinction, these sorts of things that go into parenting and how you will try to enact some negative or positive stimuli to actually get a certain behavior, right? And I think the way that many of these types of strategies are utilized by individuals with children need to be looked at within operant conditioning, and how to each kid is different, but we need to analyze the outcomes of our actions and things we say to children, and not be surprised if we see over time things manifest into certain behaviors that we didn't want initially when we acted on such things, right? So.
Something else that I want to add is that I've been watching children pretty much my entire life, whether it's somebody else's kids or one of my 50 million baby cousins. I know how bad children can be. I know how they can act out. But this is a baby. This is literally a child. It doesn't matter how bad he is. This is a baby. And there is a way to make sure your kids are held accountable for their actions without fucking taking them to jail. Okay,
Correct.
you don't have to scream in their face and handcuff them to chairs and take them to jail to teach them how to be accountable for their actions. This was a gross overexertion of power. The police officers definitely should not have even been called into this situation. This is yet another situation in which I say, why the hell are we sending out police officers to go get a 5-year-old? This takes me back to a case a couple of years ago where a little girl got pepper sprayed in the face while she was handcuffed. A baby. She was also a kid. What was she, like 11 or 8?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was like,
On camera.
Nobody is denying that what this kid did was wrong. He's throwing a tantrum. He school. And let me just say, I don't think he broke out of the school. They probably put him out for timeout and he walked off. But keep in mind, this is a 5-year-old walking around a neighborhood. He's probably terrified and lost. And like you guys are looking at this and saying, man, that kid is bad. He broke a computer, probably by fucking accident, or because he was mad because he was throwing a tantrum because he's 5. He's literally a baby. That's what children do. And you can help, you can keep them. There's a way to teach kids to be accountable for their actions without taking them to jail and using child abuse. This is a gross overexertion of power. This is not how children should be treated. I don't care how bad he is. We all know what he did was wrong, but he's a child. There's a way to go about this, and this was not it. And in any case, of trying to say, well, this is okay. I get, even if saying like, well, I know that they did too much, but they're doing this because they care about him and they don't want him to end up in jail when they get older. This is not the way to do that. This is definitely not the way. This was a gross overexertion of power. And even if it's coming from a point of tough love, this is not the way to do it. And it's not going to help at all. Also topped off and you unmuted yourself. And so now you're at the...
Just for sake of transparency, so the child broke a computer on site and then fled the school. And then the school thought that like the situation was out of control, so they called 911. So something incredibly clear is that the officers were not, as we sometimes know as like resource officers, right? I just want to make sure that's clear for the sake of the conversation.
I feel like
pissed off.
Same here. I feel like we excuse abuse all the time in our society. Like we excuse brutality, and this was brutality against this child. I don't see any other way. This was absolute brutality against this tiny child, right? Like he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the full consequences of his actions because he's fucking 5 years old. He's fucking 5 years old. But we think like this was in any way a proper response, a proportional response to what happened. Yeah, he broke something. He's a kid. You need to talk to him, right? You need to teach him that this isn't the way we act, right? Maybe understand what's going on because, yeah, there might be something going on at home. We don't know, but it is certainly a possibility, right? You look into these things, but taking him to jail, screaming at the kid, telling him it's bad, telling him he'll end up in jail like this, how does this teach this kid? What does he learn from this, right? What does he walk away from? It's like there's something wrong with me. The kid is going to internalize. This is what they're telling me, that there's something wrong with me. And people are making excuses for this? Bullshit. Fuck you.
Did someone defend like how the kid was treated?
Oh my god.
Also, fuck everybody in chat who is saying 5-year-olds don't just randomly do that shit. Obviously, you've never met children. Kids break shit all the time. Whether it be on purpose or an accident, they break shit all the time. They're kids. They don't understand what the fuck they're doing. All they say is, I'm angry, so I'm going to hit this thing. And that's a wrong way to think. But he's a baby. He's 5-year-old. That's what they think. To teach, you can teach them how to be accountable for their actions. What he's doing, is it good? We all know what he did wasn't good. But the answer to that, is it child abuse? 5-year-olds act like this all the time. This is how children act. They break things all the time. That's why when your parents take you to the store as a kid, they say don't touch shit because you're going to knock it over and break it. When you knock over that teapot at the thrift store, do you get to go to jail? Does that mean the store clerk can call the police on you and say, hey, that kid broke a couple of my merchandise? That's a felon. You get to go to jail now? That's bullshit. He's a baby. They act like this all the time. This was not the response.
Yeah.
Fuck everybody in chat saying that it was.
Lyra 4 weeks in is already molding a chat. Like I'm so glad that we get new faces on here who are just like learning to assimilate into the community. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've arrived. Welcome to the coming out part.
I just wanted to say, I think like what Lyra said is on point. I'm not looking at chat, but everyone's making an excuse for that. It's ridiculous. I don't even think a 5-year-old rationalize certain actions or behaviors fully, right? I don't think so, at least. And to hold them to a standard as such, even to even go further than that and say that they have some conceptual mindset of before they act, they have a concept beforehand is ridiculous. It's a 5-year-old. It's 5-year-old just probably left pre-K. Like I don't see really any justification for that.
If I could make a suggestion, well, once we're done, like everybody's done making their takes, I think could we move on to like the bonus topic? At least from the looks of it, it seems we come to like sort of a consensus. And I
No,
think,
Yeah.
we haven't.
I
Wait,
think
what?
most of us agree.
You and these
The only thing
fucking
I
Muppets.
think we're being ultra charitable to 5-year-olds here, but
No,
Yeah.
No,
clearly
man.
we don't
I think we're
agree.
treating them like.
Clearly we
Wait,
don't
We're
agree.
not.
wait. Hold on. I
Okay.
am not endorsing anything that the cops did. Okay, I just think 5-year-olds are a lot smarter than we think they are. Now, I don't think that, but like when it comes to like how we treat them and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're
And
wholly
maybe I'm
underestimating.
projecting
Wait,
a little
much
bit
smarter
because
in what degree? In what degree are they much smarter than what we think?
No, it's not much smarter. Is if you give a child, listen, this is the whole thing about the education system, because if you treat them like babies, they'll act like babies.
Okay.
Yes,
But listen to what I'm saying.
if you treat a child like a baby, he will act like a baby.
Okay, wait. But the child is not receiving that as, quote, acting like, treating like a baby. The point is that the child's receptiveness to how you're treating them may not be from what you perceive it as. So I'm trying to ask
No, we're wholly underestimating the ability of.
Wait, listen to what I'm saying, though. Listen to what I'm saying, though. Wait, listen to what I'm saying, though, real quickly.
They're treating him like a fucking criminal.
I'm
That's the
trying
problem.
to...
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the statement.
I need to combat some of these.
Whoa. Let CGI finish, and then you can respond.
I wanted to ask Dolphin, what do you mean by we treat them more like much smarter than what we think they are? And that would assume that they have something or do something or think some type of way that we already undermine, right? So to what degree are they smarter than what we perceive them to be? Because what I would argue is that the outcomes that they look at, right? I will believe there is no type of rationalization for a 5-year-old to understand not even the variables, but the outcomes of such actions, and maybe even the recourse that is given to them by diving in some actions. Maybe a 10-year-old, maybe even a 9-year-old. But I just think someone coming out of let me finish. I personally can't even conceptualize someone who just left pre-K to have that ability, and actually whenever you converse with them or present some type of action, for them to actually understand in terms of what was like the rationalization behind why they even did what they did in the first place.
Wait, kids absolutely do understand why they do the things that they do. That's like a very important part of parenting. You ask them why they did what they did, so you can tell them, like, you can like help them understand why that's not a good reason to do things. What I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of people who said things like, "Oh my God, he probably didn't know he broke a computer," and "Oh, he put in a hallway. He probably just wandered off in the school and was scared."
In 2021,
when you say
if
things
you
like
break
this,
your
you're
iPad,
like,
you can't do school.
What? Wait,
Yo,
we can talk about the punishments that happened, and they were like extremely wrong.
Sorry, what's happening with
I think
someone's messing with the mic again? I don't know who. Please stop. Whatever was doing that, please stop. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and
Adam.
and we could talk about like how the kid was punished for sure, and it was disgustingly bad. Me personally, I don't even think kicking a kid out of class because he was like misbehaving or because he broke something is really that great of a punishment either. It's not really good around like education. But when you say things like, "Oh, this kid knew not what he was doing,"
that's not what I said.
A true statement.
That's not what I said, though.
The ability to understand, maybe a 10-year-old might understand it.
Sorry, what I said. Adam, finish your point, and then CJ can respond.
Yeah. So you asked me why I said we don't treat them. We treat them like they're not as smart as they are. I say this because multiple people said like, "Oh, he knows not what he's doing." He's like, "Oh, he's just like kind of acting without thinking." No, children think and act. What children don't do is understand the long-term consequences of the actions they make in the moment. So for example, he goes out into the hallway, right? And he knows when he's in the hallway, he's probably not supposed to leave a certain spot. And instead, what he did was left that spot. And he knew what he did was wrong, right? In that moment. However, he doesn't know, he's not thinking about the consequences of what happens when he leaves that spot. He just says, "Oh, this is a rule and I don't want to follow the rules right now, so I'm going to break it." But like it's extremely important that when we talk about how we raise kids, that we hold them accountable, as Lyra said, for their actions, and we treat them like they do know like what they're doing. But we don't abuse kids, and we don't like put them in handcuffs and tell them that they should be beaten, because that is extremely inappropriate. So that's why I said that like we treat them like they are less smart than they are, because we're just acting like this kid's wandering around aimlessly, just kind of like interacting with the environment around him, when this kid is actively making decisions.
Okay, so this is the thing, right?
I'm informed decisions, but incisions.
I want to respond to that because I want you to articulate to me, where would you actually pinpoint at what age or arbitrary line when a child actually knows what they're quote unquote doing? I never made the assessment that they don't know what they're quote unquote doing. What I'm giving to you, right, is a rationalization. Rationalization has to not only do with what action you're doing, but what type of outcomes of your actions and what variables go into what's proceeding after the fact. I don't believe a child fully has rationalization. It encompasses all three of those parts, and a kid does not have that. You actually already articulated part of my argument to a child already foreseeing an action and not foreseeing anything after the fact, or even some variable that will counteract what they did. They only see the short-term thing of what they individually want to do. They may have some barriers that are in place, like, oh, you shouldn't leave the classroom, like you articulate well for me. But I don't believe you're really answering my question in terms of how we think they're more or less not smarter than what we think. Then you're insinuating that there's things that we don't understand, right? That they already have under the book or under their mind that we are not assessing whenever we deal with our children. And on top of that, what arbitrary line would you say, even before the fact, that a child knows, quote unquote, what they're doing? I want to know that. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 4? Because I haven't seen anything in any literature I've read where a child, we can prove on some type of analysis, right? Or any type of quantitative analysis that a child knows psychologically first what they're doing, and then secondly, at what time they can rationalize that action or behavior, which has to do with all three of those factors I just said.
Damn, I'm gonna just take this L. This man spent like.
Wait, hold on. You're doing this thing where you're like kind of conflating two different things, right? There's a difference between like having a thought process behind what you did, behind doing something, and understanding the long-term consequences. I very well said that children do not understand long-term consequences. In fact, even like young adults, up in like when your prefrontal cortex is still forming at like the age of like I think like 25-ish is like it keeps changing, but like isn't completely fun and don't completely understand the long-term actions of the consequences. However, when it comes to like punishment and it comes to like making like getting the results you want as a parent, you absolutely like treat a 5-year-old, you treat any child even that like when they do an action, right, that like the result of that action, like you like the whole idea that like you do action, you don't want that result, so you punish them so that you don't get that result, is like assuming that child knows that like the action they did was wrong. And I think that a 5-year-old who breaks the rules does know that the action they did was wrong.
That's incorrect. When it comes to operate conditioning, you don't use positive or negative reinforcement because you think the child necessarily knows what they're doing. You wait. When it comes, that's operate conditioning. When you do such things, you're doing it to actually manipulate or get a certain behavior. There is no stigma or necessity that the child needs to know what they're doing is wrong. You have to already perceive what they're doing is wrong. It's not a necessity. That's all I'm trying to say.
So maybe not like
you just use operate conditions. Operate conditions was using for dogs. No. He totally used something and said operate conditioning is saying no. Because I'm not gonna let that just go over our head.
Psychology 101. Operate conditioning was used in studies. This was literally done in studies for our children. That is what operate conditioning has been mostly used for. We use positive and negative reinforcement, extinction, and there's a type of operate conditioning that they utilize in many studies to see how we can get a certain behavior out of our children. It is used in many parenting studies.
You are correct that we use.
You are correct about it, but that has
however, nothing. Wait, come on, Azzy. Like he literally was just. I'm like directly.
He literally dunked on you. Take the L, man.
So one very important. I learned this when I took like my child psychology class. One very important part of when it comes to parenting and using operant conditioning to get the results you want is that the child understands like the action he did was wrong. This is like something that like is taught. It's like part of very good authoritative parenting. This is why often you don't just punish a kid, right? You say, hey, why did you do this? this is why you did was wrong, and then you punish them, because that creates children who are like rational, moral children who like think about the results of like what they're doing in the future, rather than children who just like run away from punishment. Who you punish. This is one of the reasons that corporal punishment isn't very good, is because when you hit a kid, they aren't able to understand because of pain and fear that what they did was wrong, and therefore in the future they just try to avoid punishment rather than try to make better decisions.
Yes, that's why.
Dolphin.
That's why I just
Go
ahead.
Something that's interesting here, because how do I say this? Like, one of the things, I'm sure Lyra can attest to this, anybody who like works with children extensively can attest to this, is that one of the problems that I saw in that video was a complete de-evolution of how you handle individuals who escalate in such a way where they're considered out of control, right? So you have a child who broke something, maybe they knew, maybe they broke it out of anger, maybe they didn't. Then they found a way to make it outside of the school, and that's incredibly serious. And then something that happened is that what you would expect, right, is that you understand, like, this is bad, maybe what the kid did is bad, that doesn't matter. We have to bring this child back into the environment where we can at least make sure that they're safe. And something that the officers did is that they violated that trust of safety. By responding the way that they did to this child, they just exacerbated that situation and made it worse. Like, they weren't able to properly really detain him in such a way that was appropriate. And then even as like they pass it off to the other instructor, like, she's manhandling this child. And then even in a situation where the child is I would argue, is under control, they still escalated that because the behavior that the child was exhibiting was not the expected outcome that they wanted. And instead of being like, hang on, maybe we'll just like let the kid just calm down a bit, let things kind of cool off, make sure he doesn't really like do anything too out of hand that might hurt himself or others, and then when he's calmer, we can approach this in such a way, maybe call his mother to send him home for the day and deal with it the next day. No, they just exacerbated this, brought the mother into the situation, and that to me is just disgusting and unacceptable. Now, that's like exactly what there are certain behavioral things, right, when you're in a classroom where as a teacher you're like, okay, I want this particular outcome. I also want to make sure that there's like certain levels, not necessarily consequence, but certain just like rules of the land that you cannot do. And it's very clear that not only the school, but the administration and they all fucked up. Like, it's very clear that something is going on with that child, and they're failing that child in real time. And instead of like creating a situation where that child wants to come back to school and wants to be in this situation, you're just perpetuating the same cycle, so that now that child is going to fear being in that classroom, it's going to fear whatever teacher manhandled them, it's going to fear law enforcement. And that's going to take years, if not decades, to just wire out of them, you know?
Yeah, everything that you're saying is correct. But another thing that I think I want everybody to know, including all you shitheads in chat, that like we could go around in circles all day about whether the kid meant to do this, whether he understood that he was doing that. We could do that all day about what his intents and purposes was. But that does not matter when we are talking about children, especially at such a young age as 5. This entire situation, that entire video was a shit show. All parties were just out of whack. And it is ridiculous to me that so much blame is being put on the 5-year-old. Now, don't mistake me. Don't misunderstand me when I said too much blame is being put on this child. And don't think that I'm saying that, oh, he's a kid, he doesn't know what he's doing. It doesn't matter if he knows what he's doing or not. It is the job of the adults around him to healthily make him accountable for his actions in a healthy, not damaging, not traumatizing way. I believe we all agree that what those police officers did was a gross overexertion of power, and they definitely did not do what was correct. They did everything that they did was wrong. I'm sure we could all agree on that. But I do not want us to get caught in the loop of partaking in the way, because we're all programmed as Black people. I think this is a really big issue with us as Black people in general. We are all programmed to look at a situation and try to break it down into this Black person could have avoided this situation if they had did X, Y, and Z. And we do that far too often as Black people. Because although With that kid, I mean, kids are definitely a special case when we're talking about kids versus adults, because I mean, like 100%, you shouldn't hold kids to the same standards as adults. But I think we apply this across the board. We do this too often, where we think, well, if George Floyd wasn't smoking cigarettes on the side, if Mike Brown wasn't selling cigarettes on the side of the block, he wouldn't have been killed. We shouldn't apply that kind of logic to this situation. And that's going again into why I said this was racially charged. The reason we are programmed to think this way as a Black people is because we have been raised this way from our parents since we were children. We've been raised to say you need to be twice as good. You can't do that because you will get a very harsh punishment. It is wrong that we think that way. It's toxic that we think that way. We shouldn't apply that kind of logic to us as a people in general, at least not blindly as we're doing now, and especially not to a child, a 5-year-old. I don't care if he knew what he was doing was wrong. I don't care. I don't care if that could be fucking the most demonic child on the planet. Like, oh, I'm going to computer and I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna go play Pokemon cards on 32nd Street. I don't give a fuck what he thought. He's 5. He's a kid. They're gonna do bad shit all the time, but it is our job as adults to make sure that gets handled correctly. Okay. Now get looped into thinking that like we have to find what he did wrong. We have to correct and make him know that hey, you need to be twice as good. And you can't do all those things wrong. He's a kid.
Lyra, you got me thinking of a Pokemon card dice game, right? That this kid is going to be involved.
I'm sorry I ramble a lot.
Something to Lyra's point, like you agree with this too, Lyra. I think this is what Top Dolphin's getting at, and maybe Wiggle was too, and maybe Azzy, is that one of the problems when, as a teacher, and like this is the like I got shoved this down my throat, where you have to be consistent in not only the rules of the classroom, but also the rules of how you deal with kids. And something that children do, and maybe this is something that maybe Dolphin was alluding to, is that when you have holes in that trust, it then creates this like cycle of inconsistency. And that's something that concerns me, where it's like that, if that, like, listen, like no cap, like if that kid's out of the room, somewhere in that teacher's line of navigating, she fucked up. Like there's no denying that she fucked up. However, something that I like, because for me, I'm thinking like, how do we prevent this behavior from happening? First off, I think that teacher loses her job, the administrator loses his job, and both those officers get fired. I'm hardball on that. If you fuck around with kids, I'm gonna fuck around with your money. You wanna know like what that feels like? Have fun dealing with unemployment. You broke, now homeless motherfucker. Fuck yourself. But with that being said, how do we stop this from happening? Like, you have to create, like, if you're watching, like, how do I make sure my kid doesn't, like, go out? You create consistency so that they don't go down that road. And something that may have happened there, may not have, is that something in that educational environment just didn't happen and that child was failed. So the question I have is that how do we make sure that children don't get failed like that anymore?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple points here, going to like at least 3 points while you guys were talking. I agree with everything Lyra was saying. I think it's a larger problem of trying to understand why people, authoritarian figures, especially when it comes to school, daycares, have different set of perceptions when it comes to Black children in comparison to their white counterparts. I believe that's a huge problem, and I think it needs to be addressed. Now, going to what I was saying earlier, all I was saying, just to say out there, was that I do not believe that every child, necessarily at the age of 5, understands fully what they're doing. I am saying that this may be the case for some children. I am also saying that because some children don't understand what they're doing at the age of 5, the reason why parents initiate this type of condition I was talking about is not only to a behavior, but also to what Top Dolphin was saying, to get them to recognize that they're doing something wrong. They have to get them to recognize they're getting something wrong. That means beforehand, they didn't believe it was wrong. The point of operating condition...
That's not what I wasn't saying that you get them to recognize what they did was wrong. You get them to recognize why what they did was wrong. Because my assumption is that they do know what they did was wrong.
Oh, and that's where I disagree. Even in operant conditioning, specifically reinforcement, actually talks about positive and negative stimuli. It's actually not just to get them to why, but actually to show them that they're wrong, and actually to show them their actions are not illicit to the same behaviors, and that the behavior that the parent or authoritarian figure wants is antithetical to their action. I just believe that some children may not necessarily always know that they're doing something wrong, quote unquote,
but that doesn't mean that all children aren't doing something under that pretense. Like, right, I'm just giving wiggle room to children that I believe at the age of 5 may or may not know they're doing something wrong. I don't know this child if he did. I would never know, but I just don't like putting a blanket statement as is. That's all I was saying. And the last thing to what Joe Lewis is talking about. Actually, this is the thing I actually want to bring up. A quick question to the panel. How do you guys feel? Because the video did show that there was individuals in there talking about beating and such. How do you feel about punitive punishment in terms of some type of physical reprimand of our children? Do you feel like this is normalized too much in culture? Do you feel like it's normalized too much in Black families? Like, how do you feel about beating? Like,
oh man,
because this
you're
was
asking a
talked
big
about
question.
in the video. They kept saying beating.
No.
Yeah, you're asking
poking the bear.
a huge question there. That's too big for right now. But go wiggle. And then we'll probably move on.
So like I had this same, I used to think exactly as militantly as you guys thought about this kind of stuff, but like things that, like, the thing that made me weary is like what do you do in cases of like somebody that's listed or like shown as a kid but then is a criminal, like somebody that does commit actions where it's like you can say they can't rationalize yet or what have you, but like the actions are egregious. Like what if you get like a Robert Sandifer, like someone that's committing a bunch of crimes, gets lessened punishments because of their age. They're stealing cars. They're running gang. They're part of a gang, and then they kill somebody, or they're posed to kill more people in future. What do you do in those cases?
Well, the point is that you just like stop them from, you do, like, depending on what age the kid is, you do whatever like would stop them from doing the behavior again. Like that's the easy answer.
Yeah, and that like opens up another can of worms, right? Because even like I sent a thing to Prime a couple days ago, which is me telling you to check your DMs, is that there was a follow-up to a conversation that we had a month ago about those those Catholic schools, those Catholic private institutions that are like having religious exemptions. Turns out those are secondary, like bad, like hard knocks, like schools that literally kids get snatched up from in the middle of the night to go to these schools without any contact to their parents, and their parents allow this thing, right? And like these are facilities that are supposed to be designed for kids who are like off the fringe, who are the, God, these names are going to sound weird, who are the Paris Hiltons, who are the bad babies. And then it turns out that while they were at these facilities, that they were sexually abused, they were physically abused, they were deprived of food and water. And then it's like, okay, the very facility that's designed for children like this has shown a pathway of misconduct. And on top of that pathway of misconduct, they use religion to make sure that they're exempt from even seeing oversight, And that's like, again, way deeper than that, but we do have programs for those kids, and even those programs fail them.
But back to the other thing. So it's like the answer was like you stop them, but how? What do you do if you stop them, and the methods you have, the institutions you have in place to stop child criminal just lets them out on the street again? It's like Arkham Asylum in Gotham City or something. Like,
right. That's the point of those programs, where these programs are designed for delinquent children who might have things like records, who might have things that are considered very like especially heinous, and then it's designed through that system. However long it takes for them to be in there, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's just like 3rd grade through 12th, and you're supposed to have like psych evaluations, all these resources that are designed so that these kids are rehabilitated to the best of your ability at whatever it takes. But then, go for it.
I think that's an extreme to go through all the psych evaluations to see what's the mental state of the child, when simply you can just, which a lot of parents do, and it's very commonplace, where you simply speak to your child and give them the why before you give them the punishment.
Yes, but you also got to understand that no parent is equipped to being a parent. Period.
What?
You're not equipped to being a parent. There are many things that you learn through parenting a child that you will need help with. It doesn't take this idea that,
well, that's why they say it takes a village to raise a child,
right? And that village would include sometimes healthcare professionals. It can include things like therapy. It can include things like teachers and different mentors. The problem is some parents don't even go through, or might not have the actual resources to help those children in those situations. right? Like, and
I'm saying to the extremes. Well, you're saying resources. What else are they doing in those facilities besides going through activities and speaking to the child and helping them reason and giving them the rationale through words, through context of why this is wrong and why you shouldn't do this. What they're really doing,
as somebody who's been through that program, because I stabbed a child in the eye when I was 4 years old, is that I was there for as long as it took. So I had additional therapy, I had schooling. When I talk about additional therapy, I had multiple therapists who tried to evaluate my behavior. They determined that I was experiencing some level of trauma because my father passed away, and then they also determined that through additional therapy and additional guidance, with the right parenting and the right guidance, that I could make it back into the K through 12 system. And the only way they would have made that determination is that my mother made the very difficult decision to put me in that very program. It works for children.
Yeah, I understand that's true, but the process of which you're going, those facilities are well equipped to deal with individuals, to deal with students, deal with children who, like you, in that position, it will work out for the better. But I'm saying there are plenty of parents who are themselves equipped to speak with their child. To say that most parents, I just want to finish. The only problem I have so far, I agree with what we're saying, a lot of good here, but we're making a lot of generalizations out of emotion out of emotion. I think to CGI, maybe, what he's saying, he truly doesn't think, but he still acknowledges that there are individual children who have the rationale and the family, the foundation to understand the why in the long term. That's what I'm saying. If you treat your children like babies, they will act like babies. I didn't just mean that in a broad sense. I'm saying if you give them the tools.
All right, so
I don't know why.
No. It's just that we're running out of time here. We're running out of time. Sorry. It is what it is. Look, but here, when you do your outros, you can do a closing statement on all this, right? You can and go ahead there. But we're running out. We're already over time. And I gotta respect your time. So, in any case, we had a child this entire time here. Polar, well, what do you think about all this, Polar?
Okay. Okay. I'll give out some personal lore. One, I can't relate to Joe's situation, but I did get in a little bit more trouble when I was in middle school to a certain extent. And I honestly getting the highlight. Okay, so personal story. I got in trouble. It's kind of a big deal, kind of wasn't. But there were two people who dealt with me when I got in trouble. There was this one white lady who was really rude to me and was like, "You did this, 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 and that, and you're gonna get this amount of trouble." Okay, which I hated that lady, and it did not make me feel any better. On the other hand, there was this black lady who related to my position and tried explaining to me why what I was doing was wrong and some behavioral things that I should try in the future to make sure that I don't engage in like harmful behavior towards others or like odd forms of harassment. The way that I viewed both of these people was that I just wanted to avoid that white rude lady to me, which I'm pretty sure is racist. But in comparison, I remember that other black administrator talking to me and was like, "Hey, I know you've been harassed by these people, but remember that doesn't necessarily justify you saying rude things to them back." There was a quote that she mentioned from Michelle Obama. It's a pretty common one. When they go low, we go high, or something like that. Does anyone remember that quote? That this is something that she used to say?
Yeah.
And that was something that really stuck with me and that I've always remembered. She didn't try to demonize me. She didn't try to make me feel like a criminal. She treated me like a person that that isn't this criminal in your head. So I think that when we look at the way that we should deal with children, it's just not, I don't think it's as valuable to just be to treat them like animals or to treat them like criminals. These people who have these set motives and like know exactly what they want when they want. Children are smart, but just because you're smart doesn't necessarily mean that like you have a full understanding or a full grasp of what you're doing, right? Like no one can no child is like, what is the moral consequence of the thing that I'm doing, and like, oh, debating the ethical positions. Like no child thinks this way. So I think talking to children and being able to diagnose and like understand why they do the things that they do is extremely valuable in also understanding how to deal with them.
Okay. Great. So we'll leave it at that. To my audience members, we will be rolling on to our open welcome panel right after this. Stream's not ending. The stream's not ending. Oh God, it's not ending. Okay, so stick around. Stick around. We'll continue on with another group of people here. But first, we're going to give everyone an out. And Smugpug, who's in my Twitch chat, is right. I do hate that Michelle Obama quote. When they go low, we kneecap them is what we do. So that's how you handle that.
Is the context of that clip like or that statement? What's the context of that? Is that like in a like?
Yeah.
Saying
that's Republicans with like the terrible tactics they were using during the Obama administration, right? So saying, at least this is what I remember. And she's saying like we rise above like whatever's happening on the GOP side with the disgusting behavior that was happening during that time. But fuck that. I
always thought it was.
Yeah,
I always thought it was like the Republicans would always like name call and like say really rude things about like a lot of the Democrats, and I thought that's what she was talking about. But maybe it was before my time.
It's okay, man. We understand, like, you know, you didn't have the ability to rationalize as CGI, but
one of those kids.
Yeah,
and we have measures for you, Polar.
Thank you.
Oh man, yeah.
We have facilities.
Oh, we have
facilities. Send them away.
So, but yeah, I think instead you kneecap them, and you do whatever it takes to win. But anyway, so I'm getting distracted here. But Polar, give yourself an outro.
Yeah, my name is Polar's World. I saw some people cringe at the fact that I said that was before my time, so I make everyone feel older, I guess. No, you know, I got a new computer. I spent like collectively 10 hours trying to build it. If you want to see it in action, okay, come out to my stream. I stream Mondays through Thursdays, 5:00 p.m. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing, but there's always something to talk about, and there's always people to mod and chat for it. So if you want to be a part of that, consider hitting that link. Appreciate it. Thank you, Prime.
No problem. All right, and Polar is always welcome here. Polar is a mod in my community, one of our best panelists, debaters, and so we're always happy to have him around. So thank you so much, Polar, for joining us. Next, we have another MVP. His name is Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis.
Jesus?
No, I'm sorry, you're not on that level. Not quite on that level, man. But my man, Joe Lewis, please. Well, if you have a final word to say on all this, and outro.
Yeah, I got a final word. This is kind of exciting. I just found out as this panel was going, I have enough people who want to put signatures so I can officially be on my ballot for either the Board of Education or my Township Council. And that was really fucking hard. And so now the only other hurdle that I have is to be officially selected by the Democrats of my township. I haven't told them yet about any of this. So this might be fucking happening. Woo! So
let's go.
Fuck. With that being said, if you want to see this fucking shit show of a journey that I'm about to embark on, sure to follow my channel, twitch.tv/Joe Lewis. Yeah, fuck. It's gonna be a little wild ride. Hopefully I don't end up like Joshua for Congress, okay? Manifestoed up and shit, so.
Don't worry, man. If you're trying to be accepted by the Democrats, they're accepting Republicans too nowadays, so it's fine.
True. I'm also black. I got that id pull. I'll just call it systemic racism. If I lose, if they don't nominate me, it's very good. I'll just weaponize it.
So
I'm just kidding. Please don't listen to anything I just said there, okay?
Both Polar and Joe Lewis's links are in chat. Check them out, please. You're not gonna go wrong. Also with this next guest, which we're again so happy that she is here, Lyra. You're a fan favorite. Like every time you come up, right? People are like, "Oh my god, we love Lyra," right? Like it's all through my chat.
It's very flattering.
Yeah.
It's very flattering.
Got a lot of fans here. So, but thank you for being here so much. Really appreciate it. Do you have last words on this or an outro?
Yes, I do have some last words. Although it may not seem what social workers do is very, like important or that big of a deal. And like this also goes into a lot of people who say, well, why do we need to put so much funds into having all these different mental health programs? Or, well, not exactly mental health, but like, why do we need to have all these extra programs for handling the police? We could just call the police to do it. Well, as we can see from the video, it's not quite as clear cut for many adults as you think it is. I mean, in the video, I know that may seem very exaggerated, but like think back to when you were in K through 12. I saw this kind of thing happen all the time among my peers when I was going to school. I saw kids getting sent to jail and handcuffed for shit you see in like everywhere that was totally unnecessary. And there are many parents who are unequipped to like sit down and have a really meaningful conversation that can really touch a child and really like get them to comprehend the full impacts of what they're doing and why what they're doing is wrong. And like I think that effect is doubled among us as really POC people as a whole, but especially particularly Black people, because like I said earlier, we were all taught by our parents that we have to be twice as good, because too often the crime, our punishment is like 5 times as hard. So like it's something that's toxic in the Black community. It's something that I think we could all work to strive to get better towards, especially with how we handle children in situations like this. I mean, we saw the mother was in the room, and the mother being in the room, that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make treating a child this way right just because the parent consented to it. I hate the show Beyond Scared Straight, as you could probably tell. But like that should tell you right there. Yeah, we need some professionals. People who know how to handle children like this going out there instead of always spamming the police, because then things like this happen. So I really enjoyed this topic. I raged at it, but I enjoyed it in the sense that I think is a very important topic that needs to be talked about a lot more often. In any case, my name is Lyra Centauri. You can find me on Twitch. I'm actually going to be cross-stitching after this panel. I do a bunch of things like playing video games. I do art. I listen to music, all kinds of things. But feel free to come by and hang out if you want. And as always, Prime, thank you so much for inviting me to the panel. I really do enjoy speaking on these.
Oh, thank you. And are you going to be like sewing? Is that what you're going to be doing?
Oh, it's cross stitching. Do I have anything else to show you? Cross stitching. I'm sorry if I'm.
CrossFit?
I'll show you what a cross stitch is.
Parkour?
Anybody who likes anime, weebs out. This is from Spirited Away. This is
It's
what
just for you,
cross
Prime.
It's like
Weebs out.
sewing on a little piece of cloth.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Cool,
I'm an
cool.
old lady.
All right. Sure. Fair enough. Everyone, you want to watch cross stitching? You won't find that here. You'll find that on Lyra's channel. Her link is
It
in the
helps me
chat.
calm down and relax.
Fair
So
enough.
it's good.
Fair enough. Thanks so much. All right. So from one of our best panels, Lyra, to Azzy. Azzy, hey.
If you ever seen somebody get kneecapped, you saw me get kneecapped several times in this conversation, bro. It happened over and over and over again, and it's all right. I'm used
That's
to it
true.
now. This is
We
why
never let Azzy
I got
finish.
metal knees. Got metal. They replaced my knees with steel, so they can't keep hitting me in the back of my kneecaps. This is why I keep getting up, keep coming back stronger than ever. King Kong on one, bro. So my final statement is, what everything my fellow panelists said were true. It's just that we need to be careful of making generalizations for the heck of it, because sometimes people out in the chat, like these zero brain head takes in the chat, Lyra came at you multiple times, and I pinpointed 2 people who are coming at me. They don't know what they're talking about. There's a bunch of silly individuals. I hope you don't have children. We need to be careful with these general takes, because some people will take what we say and run with it, and they'll go to their friends and say, hey, this person said this. This is why I say we need to be we need to be more purple pill. You know what I'm saying? We need to understand the realities of things, but we also have to understand there's a flip side to this. Be more grounded in our thinking. That's what I'm here for. As the owner, keep you grounded. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter. If you click on my link, if you put my link in chat, you go to my page. All my links are in the page. I'm building a Discord. I'm trying to Dynamite. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what I'm talking about. We need to be more purple pill. We need to build a larger purple pill society, and that's what I'm trying to do. Joe, stop trying to school me in front of hundreds of people. All right, I understand everything you're doing. I understand everything you're saying. Stop trying to school people. I'm not just. I ain't just student.
I don't.
I'm just trying to red pill you.
This is what I'm talking about. Black dynamics. People.
I'm just trying to make sure. Listen, if I type,
I'm talking right now, Joe. It's not your turn. See that? He's doing it again. Hashtag silence Joe. All right. If
listen, don't watch Alexis Essex,
we need to silence Joe too. Go to the Board of Education where you belong, Joe. Stop trying to silence us. I'm a teacher too, Joe. I'm a teacher too. I understand everything. I understand everything you're talking about. Talk to these numbskulls in the chat, bro. All right, and maybe Top Dolphin, because he was coming at me wild in the beginning too, bro. I love you, but he was coming wild at me too. All right.
I know he doesn't watch Alexis Texas though. That's the most important aspect. I know he's a man of culture.
Listen, shout out to Wiggle, because Wiggle knows why he keeps bringing me back, bro. Shout out to Wiggle. Shout out to Wiggle, bro.
All right.
All right.
Wow.
And for every prime, there's a Wiggle.
That's right. Wherever there's light, there's shadow. So thank you.
First and foremost,
Dang.
man. For every Sonic, there's a shadow. We know which one we like more. Okay. All right.
I'm the extreme one with a bike and a gun. Damn it. All right, thank you so much, Azzy. Though I do appreciate you. Top Dolphin, you're I think you're another villain. I think Joe was right, is that you were hiding behind Azzy. this heat, it was usually should be coming your way. It came at Azzy because he's just a bigger magnet for this shit. But don't worry, man. Like he's like the bigger bad, you know. Like in a season, as soon as you take down Azzy, you know, you got
in every anime. Before you fight God, you fight somebody like me. Like I'm the one dude, the one bad guy you gotta fight before you go up the tower to fight God. I'm always gonna be there to kill y'all before y'all get to the end of the game. That's what I'm here. That's my place, bro.
This is really funny.
Hey, I mean, if I'm the final boss, I'm okay with that.
All right, Adam, anything you got to say, and then your outro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment on the parenting stuff. We kind of beat that to death, but I appreciate Lyra's passion on that one. That was very nice to see, like someone who's so passionate about children. In general, actually, I just want to say thank you, Prime, for having me on. It's really cool to be on a panel of all African American people, because when I was younger, I was kind of like, you know, the term Oreo, you get shunned because you're not black enough. And it's really cool to be surrounded by black people who, while we disagree and we yell at each other, like we all kind of accept each other, like in the same space, which is really cool. And I like it. My name's Adam. I'm Top Dolphin on Twitch. If you want to yell at me about more parenting stuff, follow me and we'll talk about it on my stream. But I don't think I'm going to be streaming after this. Go watch Prime's panel after this, the open panel. They're always a lot of fun. I might join.
Hey, thanks so much. And yeah, I had some experience going up as well. I feel you, buddy. Next, we have Marks. So, Top Dolphin mentioned that, you know, it's an all-black show, but we live on dinosaurs, okay?
All right. I feel like I'm a black dinosaur, all right? We exist. We're an oppressed minority, all right? On the panel, yes, Subscribe to Prime was a very excellent panel. Thank you for hosting it, Prime, as always, and inviting me. as far as the kid situation, yeah, what the police officers did is horrible and despicable. People should learn more in general. Should have more social services available so that we can actually teach kids right from wrong in a more appropriate manner. If I'm going to give an anecdote, my mother, when I was growing up, spanked me as a child, and to me, at least anecdotally, it was effective in some instances. But I remember the most effective parenting tool that my mother ever used on me was in third grade. We had these like little reading assignments where you had to read a set number of words. I think every week, and I kept lying to my mother for a couple of weeks, saying that I read these books. In actuality, I didn't. And then one day, the teacher in my class called my parents to let me know that they had been lying and I had been skipping out of my school. And when my mother came home and found out, she didn't lay a single finger on me. All she did, she was crying in front of my face, and she went up to her bedroom and closed the door so I couldn't talk
You
to her.
made your mother cry,
And that-
Marks?
Well, yeah. that
You
was one of
should have
the-
been beat some more. You made your mother cry? This man, bro. This man. Oh.
But I remember that was one of the most effective parenting tools. I think the most effective parenting
Yeah,
my mother
manipulate.
used on me. Now looking back on it, for like the next week, I just stayed up reading just to make it up to her. And yeah.
Crocodile tears. She knew what she was doing.
But,
She didn't care about no assignment, bro.
Mark, you want to tell people to follow you anywhere?
No, I have nowhere to follow. Subscribe to Prime.
Fair enough. Okay.
Jesus, all right.
Next.
These avatars with these nothing there.
CGI. Thanks for joining us. It was your first time here. What'd you think?
It was a great panel. I love the interaction. I love the point of views, and going to what Top Dolphin said, I love being in a space with my fellow African Americans, people who share, may have different experiences that I may have, and this is a great space to have. Going to the topics were very interesting. I just wanted to say on the parenting, I just want everyone to make sure that, you understand your child. Every child's different. Try to understand your child. And I can't harp that even more. And then just to the marijuana stuff, just let's legalize it. Let's do something about it to criminalize something. Let's change the status quo with banks. It's obviously not working. I don't really stream too much. You can follow me on Twitch at it's CGI if you want to. I am on Twitter at CGI with 5 underscores. I do like debating lefty politics, so I'll be around, and I hope to be on the panel and other panels in the future. So thanks for having me, Prime. I appreciate it.
Okay. Next, Wiggle. Wiggle. Look. I'm still trying to find it in my heart to forgive you after what you pulled today. I mean, that was pretty foul. But like it was sacrilegious allowing CTV to tread on this hollow ground. But we'll have to move past it.
Wow. CTV fought for this country so that we could have panels like this. All right.
Pretty fucked up.
All right. But anyway, yeah, I'll do my normal thing. I'm not that important. Other than that, I love to see Polar here today. So it's a rare sighting. I like the development of the build, the better mic from several months ago, and then to the mic arm to now you got the black curtain in the back replacing the other multicolored one. You got the PC coming together. You're seeing the metamorphosis of Polar. Then Joe Lewis in his Dark Saiyan arc. Going at heads left and right, damn, you're really coming after Azzy, bro. At some point, I was like, as a producer, should I step in? And then I was like, nah. Lyra, the fire today. Honestly, I mean, I hate to group women in a separate category, but this is a good one. So I'll say you're definitely our best female panelist so far. It was actually very spicy, but
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
They can say whatever they want. I'll say it. It was it was a very exciting. It didn't feel like having to I didn't have a feeling of having to be do you want to say something? You just spoke when you wanted to speak and stuff. It never felt like that. Top Dolphin always holding the ground. Even if I'm I don't like this take or I like this take, holds his ground, doesn't waffle, doesn't weasel around it, argues, holds his ground. Azzy,
I don't know why they're going for low hanging fruit. All right, Azzy, Azzy, I'm saying right now, man, good people. All right, Azzy will play. He will be there. He will give his opinion, and he does it in good faith. He doesn't ad hoc. He doesn't come after you, and y'all be slinging.
Don't be cussing nobody out.
He's
you call me stupid. I'm like, bro,
let him have his take. Let him give his reasoning.
let me finish.
He's providing us content. Other than that,
I feel like a
CGI
silenced wife every time. Like I feel like a hand is about to smack me upside my head. Like, like I gotta like fight to. I gotta pick up a bottle and kill somebody just to get my word out. Gee,
I was trying to glue it together because I was like, we coming a little bit hard at Azzy here.
No, man, Azzy.
Yeah, right?
Azzy. Okay, this nonsense about let me finish. That'll be fucking
Azzy
15
deserves
minutes
it.
later. Yo, let me finish.
Azzy a damn filibuster, bro. And then CGI was. I was waiting for it. I told him ahead of time, like a guy in
I'm
debate.
still waiting on
I was waiting for it, and he was like, I speak. His thing is like, I'm very specific with what I said. That is not what I said. I'm very specific, and he did it. I was waiting for it. It's categoric with this man. Man's like in the politics server, 24/7. He debating like all day, every day. You got Marks and Marks. I love how you were telling that story. Like, Marx's father, was also there with his mother, and I was also beating him. And I'm happy to see that you found an effective son. It brought tears to my eyes. Thinking back to those. But sometimes I think, did I go too hard on my son Marx? And then hearing you today say it was effective.
Listen,
really
all this child abuse, Polar. We need to form a union. All this child abuse out here.
True.
Okay.
And how could I forget? How could I forget the man CTV? Thank you. I cannot like CTV. It was as easy as being like, bro, I got an April Fool's thing. Man was on it. Man was like, it was just like that. Responds fast. Always responds fast. Always willing. When there's a joke, the guy loves humor. He's down for it. How many people would you know are down for it, and how many people are going to be like, I don't know, how's it gonna work out? This man was on it. All right, CTV always on it. Respect him. Shout outs to him. Great guy. Great panel.
You lucky, like, and Wiggle knows you lucky. Like we almost escalated. All right, like there's a level of escalation on this bit.
Is CTV black?
Well, I don't know. There's a white American. There's a white American who thinks he's black.
In the words of Redneck, he would probably say, CTV would probably say, "For the waist down."
Well, actually, in the Constitution,
again, please come back. Please come back. Despite what you just heard, please come back.
CTV would be like, well, actually, in the Constitution, on Article 5, it clearly says.
Oh man,
he does know his Constitution. That's for sure.
I think Pisco would say something otherwise. I think he was having a Constitution, war on drugs, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay.
What did you hear? What did you think when he heard his voice? I just knew that you would like. You'd be like,
he bought it. He bought it.
He bought it at first. At first, you were like Wiggle, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm here."
I'm like, I heard.
He thought it was Redneck.
Like, what's going on here? Like, all right.
When I heard it, I was like, "Is that how
Wiggle. For a second, when Joe was like, I think it's just StreamYard. Like, I think it just messes with your voice. I actually bought it. Like, I bought it for like this.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
I got a lot of goddamn traders up in here.
Listen, if Redneck didn't have to nap for a trip.
What do you wait, Joe? What do you mean? Redneck is just he's as black as the rest of us. Can we
get out of here with that trend?
No, wait, give me 1 second.
I'm just saying you're lucky.
Okay. All right. So we're moving on. We're going on to our open walk-on panel. Right after this, anyone here can join us, but if not, that's okay. Thank you for spending your time, your energy, your passion, and your knowledge and your fucking bullshit nonsense with my community. I'm sure they appreciate it just as much as I do. Now get the fuck out of here. You guys are the worst. Bye.
Here comes integration, guys.
Thank you, Prime.
Bye.